Okay, we are live. Hi, everybody. This is Eric from longboxreview.com. Hey, everybody. Guess what? I have a very special guest on the show who hasn't been on for a long time. Travis. Yay!
It really has been a long time, hasn't it? I mean, I was thinking about that. It's been way too long.
You know, there was that time where I said the thing and you got mad at me and we haven't talked in forever. Yeah. No, just kidding.
And then comics brought us back together.
Comics mend riffs.
That's right.
You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah.
So great to see you and talk with you, Travis.
Yeah, right on. Even though it was just like, what, a week ago?
Yeah, right. So exactly. So Travis and I are here to talk about our experiences at Emerald City Comicon 2016. We both were able to go to that. And I just wanted to get together and talk with Travis and just chat about our experiences there. Things that we saw or listened to that we thought we should talk about. And I'm saying that phrase a lot. So let's move past that and professionalism, right? Yeah. But first, I need to do some business. This episode has a sponsor. Cover Me Tees at Cover Me Tees. That's Cover Me, just as it's normally spelled with Tees, T-E-S, all one word, covermetees.com. That is the online presence of the fine folks who, and if you're watching the video, you can see my new logo on my new shirt that they did. The proprietor of Cover Me Tees is my good friend Greg, who's been on the podcast a couple times, I think. And I hired him to come up with a brand new logo for Long Box Review, and it looks pretty snazzy.
It does.
And thank you. I didn't know what to expect when you give a creative person carte blanche to do what they want. And Greg just came back with just a great design. I loved it. You have the little Kirby dots type thing, or not Kirby. I'm sorry. It's just the old comic book printing aspect to it. And I love that. I had no idea he was going to do something like that. And he gave me a few different options. This what you're seeing on my shirt is the wide version of the logo, but then I also have the square version that'll show up in the podcast feed, and everywhere my presence is online now. So I moved away from that old dialogue box or balloon, word balloon. Sorry, word bubble. Everywhere. So everybody should be seeing that new logo. Anyway, I love it. Anyway, so if you are looking for some graphic design work that you want done, or you specifically want some t-shirts printed up or even designed and printed up, Cover Me Tees will have you covered. So there we go. Okay. Emerald City Comicon 2016. Travis, how many years have you been going to Emerald City? How many years has it been?
Was it 2010 or 2011 was the first year I went. This is year number 5 because I skipped 1 year. So I've gone 5 years now. Yeah, 2 years ago I skipped a year and hated every second of it. That was the longest weekend of my life, I think. Not going and then seeing all the tweets and whatnot coming out of there. So yeah. Love it. It's lots of fun.
Was it 2010? I thought it was 2009 because we both went the same. I was going to look this up. Dang it. I thought we went for the first time the same year, right?
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
Was it 2009?
Because I remember thinking, isn't 2010? No. When is the 10th anniversary? No. Next year is the 15th anniversary. So 2012 was the 10th. I know. I think you're right. I think maybe it is 2000. Yeah, 2010. I
was thinking.
Now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, because DC had a really big presence that first year. Jeff Johns was there. We got to him and whatnot. So that was really cool. So yeah, I've been every year. I didn't skip one like you did. So this will be the 6th year in a row, I guess, that I've been.
Mhm.
Great show, but I have a few caveats about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Maybe, huh?
this last year, 2016, was the first year that Reed Pop managed it from the get-go, I
Yeah.
believe.
Fully.
Yeah, fully.
Yeah.
So the con originator, showrunner Jim DeMonakis stepped aside. Is it accurate to say he sold the show to Reed
Yeah.
Pop?
He
Yeah.
did. He sold it to, it was his brand. He sold it to them right before Emerald City Comicon last year. I mean, like a month or two, right? Beforehand last year.
Mm-hmm.
But of course it was already planned and whatnot. So you're right. This is the first year we see the full management of the new people doing it.
So as with any change in your life, you're always a little worried about how things are going to go, especially
Exactly.
when it goes from what feels like a very grassroots personal effort on Mr. DeMonakis's part to a more, shall we say, corporate entity.
For sure.
Yeah. So let's just talk about that a little bit because okay, so let's turn our minds back in time to the day that they announced the tickets went on sale. And so I actually because the year before, actually a year or two before, the 3-day or 4-day passes, because wasn't last year the first 4-day, or am I misremembering that?
Yeah, last year would have been the first time.
Okay,
Right?
so yeah, they went from
No,
3
it was
days.
3 day. Today, this year was the first four
Was it?
day.
Was it really?
Yeah, yeah. Because this is the first year I've missed a day.
No. Because I remember going to one. I think it was 2 years ago. Because Thursday was a half day, and
Oh,
then
you're
this
right.
year Thursday was a longer day.
It was a full day. Right.
Right.
You're right. You're right.
So but last year tickets sold out pretty quickly. I don't remember exactly how long it took. Do you?
Right.
It was pretty fast for the
The
4-day
full.
passes.
Yeah. I don't remember. But it was fairly quick. But I mean, it wasn't. Yeah. I mean, it was fairly quick.
Well, and on top of that too, the Sheraton, which is the hotel right across the street from the convention center,
Right.
that sold out really quickly last year.
Last year I actually got hotel reservations before I bought tickets.
Which was really smart of you because
the hotels go faster than tickets do.
Exactly. And I didn't realize that because 2 years ago at that time, I was able to get the Sheraton, and I didn't go online the same day that tickets went on sale to secure the hotel, and I was still able to get to the Sheraton.
Yeah.
So last year I missed that. I mean, it was 3 days later, I think it was. The part of the problem was last year I was out of town. My wife and I were out of town, or we were busy doing something where we weren't able to be at home to do all this stuff.
Right.
And so, when 3 days later, I think is if my memory serves me, which it probably doesn't, but 3 days later, I get online and go to, get the tickets, which I got no problem. Go to the hotel, and Sheraton's completely sold out. So we had to go to a different hotel, which actually wasn't bad. It's the Motif, which is actually pretty good. It's only like a block and a half away, and it was fine. My wife though loves the Sheraton, so this year going into it, she told me, "Hey, you are going to get the Sheraton." I'm like, "Okay," but I knew, because of our experience the last year, I decided I actually took the day off,
and I should have
from work.
I should have.
Yeah, and so I did that, and as I recall, the 4-day passes sold out within half an hour.
Yeah. I didn't get 4-day passes.
Right. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. So I get the 4-day passes and I got the Sheraton, but because I got the Sheraton, but because we take our kids, our granddaughters to the show with us, what they were selling for for the 4 days that I wanted didn't appear to me. I think it was just one bed, one king size bed. I could not get 2 beds.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a little concerned about that. That all turned out in the end okay, but even after it was like a week later or more where we actually changed. So we actually did have to stay at the Motif on for Thursday,
mm-hmm.
but then we're able to get the Sheraton for 3 days. And we did that because I had talked to you about that.
Right.
Because you had a similar situation.
Right. Because when you went into because of course they have deals, right? They have a package, they have a deal that if you're part of the con during that weekend, you can, supposedly they're giving you, some deal. I don't know if they are or not, to be quite honest. And they only have so many of those deals available. And when you go to the website and you click in and you say you want to be there for the whole con, get there Thursday, well, no, it'd be Wednesday night through the con. Those were gone, like instantaneously gone. But you could go in and say, I wanted to be there one less day, and there were still lots available and whatnot. And that's what I had done. And then to tell you, hey, you can, jump on fewer days, kind of a thing. So, which I guess worked out okay for me because, I didn't get the 4-day passes anyway. The 4-day passes by the time I got home from work at lunchtime to start purchasing the tickets, 4-day passes were already gone, and so I got the 3-day pass, the Friday through Sunday. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So that was one thing that's not management's fault. That is just a testament to the desire of people like us who want to go to the show.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's good that they're getting that many people. Now since I'm talking about that, Travis, do you feel, because Saturday is always the busiest day at the con, it always has been.
Oh yeah.
Do you feel like, because I haven't seen numbers from Emerald City.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Of course, I haven't really been looking either. But do you feel like that this year's Saturday was any busier than, say, last year's?
No.
Okay.
I didn't think it was. I actually thought it was better. For whatever reason, I mean, it was, it's super crowded, but I felt like it could move around a lot easier this year than prior year. Because I mean, there were years before that they get the place so crowded on Saturday that the fire marshal would show up and they would keep people from going in and out of the building. I mean, if you left the building, you couldn't go back into the building until they thought X number of people left the building again. Do you remember that year?
Yeah.
I guess that's been 3 years ago, I think
when
was when they had that issue. So clearly they figured out, regardless of how many people want to come, we can only sell, X number of tickets. And so I think they figured out whatever that sweet spot is. And so I thought, I don't know, this year did not seem as bad on Saturday as the year before. The year before on Saturday, I swear everywhere you went, you could only take steps that were like 3 inches, kind of a thing. You just barely crawled along. And I didn't think it was as bad.
Well, and also in a last year, definitely, maybe even 2 years ago, they expanded into the building across the street.
Yeah, 2 years, yeah.
And I think they had stuff in the hotel too.
Yeah, all the gaming stuff. Gaming stuff was in the ballrooms of the Sheraton across the street.
Right.
Yeah.
So they were able to expand into other areas, and therefore that kept the traffic on the main floor down a little bit. So yeah, I feel the same way as you do. It didn't seem like Saturday was any busier than in previous years. So that was good. And I felt more comfortable moving around. Although, man, you know what? This is my first gripe, I guess. This is to fellow fans. Don't stop in the middle of the main walkway to take pictures, please. Or just to have a conversation, or whatever. Don't stop. Move to the side.
Right.
So people can pass.
No doubt, right?
So annoying.
Con etiquette.
Yes. Okay. So that's the lead into all this. That's the background to the situation. So probably I was not too pleased, I guess, with so. Unfairly, I will admit, unfairly, I'm thinking, well, the management screwed something up. So, that they sold out so fast, they didn't anticipate the need, whatever. But that's really not their fault. I think you're exactly right. They figured out what what the what do you say the sweet spot is as far as the attendance, and they're not going to oversell. They can't legally, they can't do that.
Right.
Otherwise, they'll get shut down. So no big deal. But I'll get into it as I talk about the individual days and my experiences there. But do you have any other thoughts about the Reed Pop management of Emerald City going into it?
Well, I'm apprehensive. As soon as something becomes a personal thing, it becomes a corporate thing. Not that I don't work for a corporation, but you kind of get suspect as to is it still going to have the love that the con I think had before that. I really felt like it had been run with some ideals in mind, and I wonder if those ideals will get put aside for the cash, because now it's a business. It's always been a business,
right?
But it's a business based on love. It's like the difference between mom and pop comic book shop and Barnes and Noble selling comic books or Hastings selling comic books, right?
Yeah.
There it's just a product. And you would assume the mom and pop, at least the good ones, the mom and pop comic book store, it's as much about the fact that they love comic books and selling comic books and that sort of thing versus this is just another product we put on our shelves and want to shovel along. That's always my concerns going into that sort of thing when it changes like that, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I had the same apprehensions.
As a matter of fact, the guy, he became in selling that. He also became part of management. They put him in charge of being one of the execs to make all these places run. He was actually on the other side of the United States, I believe, during this weekend.
Right. Do you know what he was doing?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I follow him on Twitter, but I don't like following him that closely.
Right.
And it doesn't really matter. I just thought it was interesting because I know in years past, he's there because it's his thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's no longer his thing. So he's not there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
And I also wanted to just real quick, give a shout out to the Minions at Emerald City Comicon, because as always, these are volunteer folks who
have
help
a bad
out.
job.
Oh my God, do they ever? Dealing with cranky fans and lines and all this stuff. I've never had a bad experience with a Minion, and I think that they just keep getting better and better in terms of the service that they provide at the con.
So you clearly weren't buying Funko Pops.
No,
because if you were part of that whole thing, you would have a different opinion.
Oh, okay.
Just saying. I personally wasn't buying Funko Pops. Friends of mine were, and so I kind of milled around that area to talk with them and whatnot. And I won't get into it too much because for me it's secondhand kind of experience. But they handled, because Funko Pop had a bunch of exclusives there at Emerald City Comicon, which of course makes everybody want to run out and get them. Their choices every day of the con as to how they were going to handle that were kind of piss poor. So, so the first couple days, they kind of let the Funko Pop line, which is clear at the very back of the con, basically to go through the entire con floor to get to it. The first day, Friday anyway. Thursday the line closed 3 minutes after the doors opened.
Oh my gosh!
They cut it off and said, anybody else who came, sorry, go away.
Wow.
Friday, the line was closed before the con opened. So Friday morning, they must have opened the doors a few minutes before 10. And the line was actually closed before 10 o'clock. I had friends standing in line and they were farther back in the line. And they actually told them to go away, that the line was closed, that they were going to sell as many as they were going to sell that day already. And that was literally before 10 o'clock, before the con opened up. Same thing happened on Saturday. On Sunday, they kind of hunted and pecked through the early lineup as to who they were going to let get in line. And then after people were in line, they started pulling people. And it was not the Funko people, it was the Minions were pulling people out of line and telling them that they couldn't be in line. Well, the problem was, if you're an exhibitor, right? if you're an artist or an exhibitor, you get into the con beforehand, right? Set up your stuff and whatever. You've got a pass to be there beforehand. The first days of the con, the exhibitors lined up to buy everything. And so that's what happened every day. Instead of the fans getting first shot, the people who are already in the con floor were lining up. So you literally had people who were selling Funko Pops on the other side of the con were lining up first to buy the exclusives. I mean, and the exclusives, some of the exclusives of the Funko Pop stuff were already on eBay pre-sale for $300 for a $15 Funko Pop.
God, what?
Yeah. So clearly, if you're just a fan, not wanting to sell it, but you're just wanting one because it's what you want that Green Goblin, that exclusive Green Goblin or whatever. Sorry, almost every day it did not go to fans. It went to, the speculators and the people who are running the other exhibits, so they could put them on their wall of Funko Pops. Because there were a couple places that were selling, Funko Pops, so they were just going over and buying them early and then selling them at their own places.
Well, I would say more than a couple, because that was one of my observations about the show in general, was that, the Funko Pops have always been there ever since we've started going to Emerald City Comicon, but It was usually like one place. It started out, as far as I remember, one place.
Funko, yeah.
And now, and not only do you have all the vendors selling a bunch of these Funko Pops, but you actually had the company there.
Right.
I don't recall seeing them there last year. Maybe I just missed it.
Yeah, I don't think they were there last year. I mean, I think there were some exclusive Funko Pops, but not the company there selling a bunch of them.
Not the presents. Yeah, right. So wow, that's incredible. So let me go back to what you said earlier about the minions. So were the minions pulling? Who were they pulling out? Were they pulling out of the line?
On Sunday, they were pulling people out that they were suspect were the continued exhibitors.
Okay.
Is what they're trying to pull out. But there's no identification, right? As an exhibitor, if you have your exhibitor badge, but if you go and buy a regular badge too, and you're standing there with your regular badge, how do they argue the point? And so they were just kind of going through and one person I know, they
recognition.
They pulled her out of line because she was there so early. I mean, she actually had a VIP pass. She ended up going and buying a VIP pass because she wanted to get in early enough to try and get one of the exclusive things.
Oh no.
They pulled her out of the line. They put her back in the line. Of course, they put her back in the line much later into the line. So, yeah. Wow. I mean, and then they come by and go, I was actually there when they came by and went, oops, sorry. They gave her some discount thing on, buying some of the corporate products that they sell, the con shirts and stuff like that. Oh boy. So they gave her a 20% discount on buying a t-shirt versus there were only 300 of these things, and now I don't get one because you pulled me out of line. So yeah, I don't know.
Oh wow.
So that whole aspect of, I'm just thinking the whole time, thank God I'm not interested in the Funko Pop thing, because that would bum me out. I mean, kudos to my friends. They kind of went, okay, let's just move on, and they'll be happy about everything else. Because normally, and one of the persons, it was their first con, and I'm kind of like,
oops.
This is how you what you try to do is you focus on the one thing you really want, get there early, get that thing, and then the rest of the con's gravy, right? I mean, that's how it's always been for me in the years past when I'm like, okay, I want art from this person or something. I rush to that table first, get myself on that, on that commission list, and then I'm happy. Whatever else I get after that is just extra gravy. I got the goal. And that's what they tried doing. And of course, it was the whole Funko Pop disaster, for 4 days in a row. So I don't know.
Well, and so, not every con goes as smoothly as I'm sure the promoter would like, and the fans as well. Sure. But, so far I think we've seen improvements from Mr. Demonakis when he was running it. So the question is, next year, will this same situation occur again? And I'm hoping, obviously, that they fix it.
I think they'll fix it, because I think they already acknowledged that it was kind of a zoo. Well, and they tried fixing it on Sunday, and of course then they left it up to the poor people who are standing there's decisions as to what was going to happen, which if you pick wrong, clearly you've just made fans pretty irritated over that whole thing. But I mean, other than, like I said, that secondhand experience around that, I had nothing but great experiences. The few places that I had to queue up to talk to people, whatever, if I'm standing next to that minion, that minion was great. They were friendly. They were talking about whatever. I didn't have minions barking at me to move because I wasn't moving when it wasn't me that wasn't, because on Saturday there's places where you get a little bottlenecked and whatnot. There wasn't somebody, barking at me for doing something I wasn't supposed to be doing. So I don't know. I as a whole, it's been great, and those people have been great. And like you said, kudos to them, because I think they get into the con for free, but I don't know how much time they actually get to themselves to enjoy stuff. And it's a zoo. There's 40 some thousand people, I'm guessing, cruise through that place. So yeah.
40 last year. I think it was, they topped 80,000.
Is it? Okay. Well, whatever.
It was either 60 or 80. It was a lot. Yeah. Well, and like you said, they probably don't get much time. And I do recall, because I went to several panels that were in the same area, the 300 level, where we went to the Vertigo panel together. Right. Anyway, I remember seeing this one particular minion, and she was there Saturday and Sunday. As far as I know, all day. So I don't know what they sign up for or why they, what they're getting out of it. But anyway, I just appreciate the minions who, they're just trying to do the best job that they can with sometimes potentially trying situation.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So anyway, okay, so let's move on. Oh wait, let's actually back up. So let's talk about Image Expo, because Image Expo was held in Seattle, Washington this year, and it was the day before the con opened. So it was the Wednesday, right before the con. The problem, so exciting, right? Because I've always wanted to go to an Image Expo,
right? Yeah.
The problem with that, however, is that they announced it about 3 or 4 weeks before the con. It was less than that, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it's about there. It was less than a month for sure.
Okay, so within a month.
Yeah, it was less than a month. 3 or 4 weeks. Somewhere around there, I think.
Right. So for those of us who already, made the plans, secured our rooms, maybe even bought, airline tickets. That wasn't me or you, but people fly to the con.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I was, and this is not the con's fault at all. This is Image, but it kind of disappointed me. I was not able to go to probably the only Image Expo that I could easily get to, because of the way that they did it. Why did they not announce this, much earlier?
I don't know. I don't know what made them suddenly decide to do that and whatnot. And I wouldn't excuse the con completely. They endorsed it. Their name's on all of it.
You're right. They did.
So I'm sure it was kind of, opportunity strikes. Let's take it, kind of a
maybe,
thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was well without outside of we're quasi local. We're a 5-6 hour drive from there, so that makes us a lot more local than the people who are truly traveling from out of town, and that it still made that impossible. The only people who really would get to go to that would be mostly, I would guess, local people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you'd have to change plane tickets, you'd have to change, you'd get extra hotel. I couldn't work it out. I tried. I tried. I figured, well, I'll just, wander the streets on Thursday, because I didn't have con tickets for Thursday, but still to go to that Wednesday, because that's an all day thing. Besides just the announcements that we see on the internet, it's an all day thing. They have, basically panels that go on all day long. And then they had a big ball at the end of the day, if you really wanted to continue to rub elbows with the creators and whatnot. Yeah, I'm bummed about that. I'm bummed that I didn't, that didn't work out. And the biggest gripe is the fact is there wasn't enough time to make a plan, and it seems to me like all the other Image Expos, I've known about them way in advance, I thought, but maybe not. Maybe it felt like a long time because, of course, I wasn't going to what else was going on around it, so therefore I wasn't planning anything. So it seemed like when they announced they were going to have the announcements, it seemed like a long time. I don't know. I'd have to actually, I guess, do internet searches to see how realistic that is between when I heard about it and when it happened. It just felt very, very short, very like, who's going to get to go to that, kind of thing. So yeah, very jealous. Very jealous.
Yeah, exactly. So, Travis, you want to talk? Let's talk a little bit about some of the announcements, because there's a lot of stuff. I don't remember the number of things, projects that were talked about, and not all of them I'm interested in. But I wanted to just briefly mention some of the things that I am interested in.
Sure.
But I also noticed too, and I think I saw you tweeting about this, wondering when these books will actually come out,
Right.
because according to this article I'm looking at on CBR, the majority of these, the vast majority of these, are saying, well, okay, a few are saying summer 2016. Most of them are saying fall 2016. There's a couple that I saw that say December 2016, and one that is saying spring of next year.
Yeah.
So a lot of these are coming out. Well, potentially summer is only a few months away as we record this, so maybe they could be out when they say. But as we all know, that you can make these announcements, but whether or not they actually come out at that time, and that seems to be the word issue comes to mind, but that's not the right word. But that seems to be just kind of the norm, I guess.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Whenever Image Expo happens and they make these announcements, it seems like the number of comics that actually come out when they anticipate them coming out are fewer anyway.
Right. It seems to me like there are a few creators, if they say my book's coming out this time, unless something traumatic happens to one of the people who's producing the book, we're going to see it. I can't remember off the top of my head when the Brubaker Phillips book, when they've said it's coming out. I would bet paychecks that their book's going to come out when they say it's going to come out, unless something like I said, something traumatic happens to one of those creators, because and maybe this isn't the word to use, they're really professional, and I know, because then I'm implying that those other people aren't. But I think they have an understanding of what deadlines mean, and they know us as fans want to have some sort of understanding of when something's being produced, when it's coming out, when it's not coming out, that sort of stuff. So we're not kind of left hanging and wondering what's going on. And so we get those books in a timely fashion. It's just like the last bunch when they were announced and whatnot. There are just certain creators, Rutka, for instance, generally is not going to say this is something's coming out in a certain time unless he knows that's really when it's going to come out. And he gets upset when it doesn't. If something falls apart, he's had some announcements in the past that have kind of gone south, and it upsets him so he doesn't want to be, stuck in that kind of a position. Whereas some of this stuff, I mean, hell, there's more than half of the books that were announced at the last Image Expo have not been released yet.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh. So no wonder you made that comment.
Yes. Yes. I mean, so there's definitely a difference between announcing, hey, this is some cool stuff we think we're going to do, and realistically whether or not that's going to come out and whatnot. They are two totally separate, kind of things. And I think some of them we may never see, whatever happens along the way, because of the the way image books are and how you're paid and stuff like that. I mean, these people, those are paychecks they don't collect until after the fact, where some of these, working for, corporate comics, you're getting paid up front or while it's happening instead of after the fact. And so I'm sure you have to pay bills. And so these kind of projects, which are personal projects to some degree, get set to the side, right? I'm assuming that's some of the reasons why we don't see stuff, or it takes forever, to get it, kind of a stuff. But
well, and there's a book coming out too that, speaking of a long time between announcement and when it's going to come out, we'll talk about that in a minute. But back to Image Expo. So, what are some of these titles that you are excited about?
Well, of course, what the heck's it called? The Brubaker and Phillips book. I don't know.
That's Kill or Be Killed.
Kill or Be Killed. Looking forward to that, solely based on the people who are producing it.
Yes, I saw that. I saw that they were doing a new book, and I don't care what it's about. Right. I don't even think I read the description, because it's Brubaker and Phillips and
Right.
Elizabeth Breitweiser doing colors.
Right.
I will buy anything that
Yep.
team puts out. I don't care what it is.
Yeah. Same here. Basically, the only thing I know about it, really, to tell you the truth, is that it is it's going to be a long-term ongoing book.
Oh, really? Not
Brubaker said that he has been kind of away from those. He's written stuff where he's known there's a definite finite. This is how long I'm gonna. Whether they tell us, he knows it was only going to be about long, and that's what he was going to do. That he's read some stuff lately that he's really interested in the long-term serialization of a story and what you can do with that process. And so he wants this to be that, is what it sounded to me like.
Oh, excellent. Because that's one of the things that I actually don't like is too strong of a phrase about the Brubaker Phillips series is that, they last a couple of years and that's it.
Right. Well, and I don't know, part of me likes the never knowing. I don't know if you're like me. If I know something is 6 issues or it's 12 issues or whatever, you can see the plotting going on, I guess. And in my head, I'm like, okay, we're at about the middle. We're getting to the whatever. I know we're on the downswing. Do you know what I mean? It has to close up here, so you can speculate this is what's going to happen. I don't know. To me, it pulls me somewhat out of the story once I know that it's finite. It kind of, whereas if I don't know how long it's going to be, it's just so then it's a mystery of what we're exploring and whatnot. So
right, but for me, and I agree with you, but for me, it's like if it appears open-ended, then I start seeing where they could go off on this particular path and explore this side or this side of the story, and then come back into the main story, and they could branch out all different ways, and then it's over. And I wanted all those other stories involved in that world.
Right.
So it's kind of disappointing, but at the same time, it's Brubaker and Phillips, so it's excellent work.
Right, it's tight. It's still it does everything it's supposed to do and whatnot. So yeah, we're ridiculous for complaining.
I know, right?
So that's the top. That's the top book. That for me, that was the top book. I was like, oh, and because I just kind of figured, they closed down the Fade Out. Soon we had to be being told what their next thing was going to be. So that was top of the list kind of stuff. Another book I'm interested in, solely based on creators, is Moonshine. That's a Brian Arezzo and Eduardo Rizzo book. I like them together. What I've read of Stray Bullets, I've liked. And I've liked anything else that they've produced together, Spaceman and stuff like that. So them doing a Image book, I'm looking forward to. I don't know if I'm looking forward to Werewolves running Moonshine.
I missed that in the description.
Right. So I'm not 100%. I mean, I like werewolves, don't get me wrong. But I'm not that I'm 100% on that.
Okay. But right there. So this book was a maybe to me until you just said the werewolves. Now I'm more interested. Yeah. Yeah. So that's a book that definitely, what was the Hickman book? Yes.
Black Monday Murders.
Yes. Jonathan Hickman and Tom Coker.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm a huge Hickman fan of superhero work. No, of superhero work. But I've really enjoyed the heck out of his his indie work.
Right.
Really, really, really like East to West, kind of a thing. And I guess the reason I think I like his independent work is that we don't have editorial while he's trying to tell, because he seems to tell really long stories, right? Or at least that's the thing I get. And I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with it taking forever to get to point A, as long as it's intriguing while I'm reading that or whatever's going on. But I feel like when I read superhero work, somebody else is there, messing things up. I feel like, and with this, there isn't that. So I'm that, to me, that book is interesting, based on what I've heard about it. The fact that it's got, it's, the stock market, and there's, some occult stuff going on in it. And, that sounds intriguing to me. So,
well, here, let me just give you this phrase from it. So this is, Yeah, classic occult indoctrination where the secret schools of magic are actually clandestine banking cartels who control
Yeah.
all of society, a hidden world, and this is the part that I love, where vampire Russian oligarchs, black popes, enchanted American aristocrats, and
Nice.
hitmen from the International Monetary Fund work together to keep all of us in our rightful place.
See, that just sounds awesome.
It sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah. I mean, I can get behind twisted stuff like that. So I don't know. I'm excited. So I'm really interested in that book. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there are any others that really stood out. After going to a panel, I am interested in Glitter Bomb.
Mhm.
After listening to Zub talk about the book and getting to see like the first couple pages, because they had the first couple pages available, and then talking to Zub more at his table, I got to see covers for like the first, I don't know, 4 or 5 issues at least. Yeah, I'm interested in that. I mean, I like the idea of telling a story about basically the whole kind of the premise that my understanding is you've got the of course, how Hollywood operates. Women, once they're out of their 20s, they pretty much don't have jobs. Actresses, where of course the men can be, old as dirt like Harrison Ford, and they still have 20-year-olds hanging off their arms, which doesn't always make sense. And so it's about a woman who's hit her 30s. She was a starlet, and now she suddenly can't get work, and she is going to unleash hell upon Hollywood for basically, screwing her in her middle age.
Okay, so that description and the description I'm reading here on CBR, I don't get the same message that you just described.
What does CBR say?
It just says it's a horror story about failed fame and blood-soaked revenge.
Oh, well, I tell you, in one of the pages that she shows, she's sitting and she's talking to her agent, the main character, and the agent is firing her. Basically, I don't want to represent you anymore because you're old and useless, so there's no point in me keeping you around, kind of thing. And she opens her mouth, and probably a 14-foot tongue launches out of her mouth and drives a hole through the guy's head, and basically so it's this shot of this tongue launching through and blasting out the back of her head, and I'm like, oh, that's wild. So yeah, I mean, I don't think the text that CBR has does justice for what's going on. And this is one of those cases where I don't know that I would have been interested in it if all I got to read was the CBR thing. But getting to sit on a panel and listen to him talk about, pitching it forward, and then going to his table and talking to him more about it, I'm there. I'm hooked. I'm interested to see what it has to do with. Because if that's the solicitation text, that doesn't do anything for me.
No. And to your point about listening to or interacting with the creators, you and I were discussing this before we went live on air. That's happened to me a few times going to the cons, sitting in those panels, talking with the creators, and hearing them talk very passionately about these books that they're coming out with, even the DC and Marvel stuff. For example, I was in the DC All Access panel, and we'll talk about that more in depth in a bit. But Steve, or maybe it was, I think it was Steve Orlando was there, and he's the writer for the new Supergirl comic, post Rebirth. And he's okay. He's an okay writer to me. I've never been real excited about anything that he does.
So you don't read Midnighter, huh?
No. Shame. Unless Grayson shows up in it, then
shame. I love that book.
Yeah, well, I know a lot of people are think very fondly of that book, and what Orlando's doing in it. But like I said, he's not a writer that has set my comic reading world on fire. But listening to him talk about his excitement for and his plans for the Supergirl book makes me interested in it now, whereas before I really wasn't. So there's a lot to be said about the creators getting out there and talking to the fans about their stuff. not just in cons and interviews like that. I don't know, just with social media, I guess, it's very it's prolific out there, right? That they they have a lot of avenues to
Right.
sell their wares. But I don't know. I guess my point is being there in person, listening to them, watching them as they talk about this stuff really makes a big difference in many cases.
Yeah, for sure. For sure it does. Well, the difference between a solicitation text written by, potentially by an editor, in the case of the big two, it's an editor. It's not even the creators that are pitching it. It's somebody else secondhand pitching it. I think versus definitely a face-to-face conversation with the people who are actually doing it. And if they're excited about doing it, which I hope most of these people are. It's not, it's a job. I mean, I know there are some people who are working on some books where it's the job. They asked me to do it. I'm doing it because it's paycheck. Yeah, I think it's pretty easy for it to be contagious, to be excited about it if they're excited about it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Or they tell you something in a way that of course, what you've seen in other places isn't there. I bought books at this con that I had zero interest in buying because of the way I had seen solicitation text for it. I'm like, that doesn't really interest me. Cool that other people dig it. I don't, whatever. And then encountering the creators, and the creators talk about it in a completely different way than what the solicitation text. And I'm suddenly lining up going, how many of these can I buy? Kind of a thing. So yeah.
Word of mouth definitely is one of the best ways to sell a product, right?
Yeah.
Are there any other Image Expo titles that were announced that you are interested in?
Speaking of talking with creators and getting excited about stuff, of course, the team that's on the Bernstein Batgirl, as they like to call it, of Brendan Fletcher, Cameron Stewart, and Babs Tarr, of course, announced a book at Image Expo that they're doing together called Motor Crush. And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I've been reading the Batgirl. I dropped it a few issues from it completing just because I was kind of tired of it. I mean, I think that they attempted to do some interesting stuff with that character, and that's a whole other conversation. But I have basically zero interest in that. And I, at the con, talked with Cameron Stewart and Brendan Fletcher, not so much, but Cameron Stewart mostly, at his table. And I'm going to pick that book up. I'm going to try it. Just because talking with the difference between what they did with Batgirl, what they want to do with Batgirl, and what DC editorial wouldn't let them do with Batgirl, they want to be able to do here, go full on. And so now, more almost from a craftsman's standpoint, it's interesting their take on what they chose to do with Batgirl, but they weren't allowed to do everything they wanted to do, and they're going to do it in this book. So now I'm really curious to see what them unfiltered would be. If they're unfiltered, so they can just do what they want to do, they're not stuck having to do it the DC way, or that's too far outside of the box that they want to stay in. Now that they're unfiltered, so I'm going to pick up at least the first few issues of it just to see what they unfiltered are like. Mm-hmm. I guess it's more of a curiosity's sake than a I'm super excited for that book, kind of a thing. So that's another book I know I'll be picking up the style of, just because I'm curious to see what them quote unquote unfiltered would be like.
Mm-hmm. So okay. There's one other title that I wanted to just mention quickly that I was interested in here. It's called Horizon. This is written by Brandon Thomas with art by Juan Gideon and colorist Frank Martin. So this is a science fiction-y tale. Basically, the Earth is all used up, and we go out to another planet, and basically to live there and use up that planet's resources. But then the person who lives on that there's a character that lives on that planet. Let's see here. That person comes to Earth to make sure we finally take some responsibility for our actions. So that just the kind of interplanetary political aspect of it intrigues me. Plus, I've been really into more science fiction-y works lately. I just finished reading Venus from, I think it was from Boom Studios. About people Earth people going to Venus to colonize, because same thing, Earth is getting used up and we got to find another place, another home, essentially. This intrigues me. And there's a few others that were on my maybes. There was one called Prima, which yeah, it's involves spies, and I love spy stories. So that kicked me in the brain. And then there was this thing called Prince of Cats, and the only reason I mention it is because apparently it was a Vertigo title a couple years ago, and now they're bringing it to Image.
Really?
I don't recall ever hearing about this title. So anyway, it looked interesting.
In 2012. That wasn't that long ago.
Right. Yeah, critical acclaim. First release from Vertigo to critical acclaim in summer 2012. I really don't remember this book. So anyway, it's coming. But the description here, Prince of Cats, this is what got me. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead meets the Warriors meets Sword of Doom.
Right. That's crazy sounding, doesn't it? Yeah.
You got me at Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead. So.
Yeah. And I know you're not necessarily a fan, but Rick Remender, of course, has another Image book coming out, which I will pick up because I've really enjoyed all of his Image books so far. So until one fails, I'll pick that up. That 7 to an Eternity, and I have no idea what it's about. I just figure I'll pick it up because it's a Remender book.
I have to say the title intrigues me, and the image here with the characters and this alien-looking creature on it looks pretty cool. It's kind of evocative of Westerns.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So I am curious, and it's the description. Yeah, the description is kind of vague, but it's about a dying knight from a disgraced house on a mission to rid his world of an insidious god who ensnared him in a Faustian deal. I mean, how? Doesn't say a lot.
No.
But yeah, it looks interesting. So yeah. I'll let you read it, and then you can let me know that I missed out, and I'll buy the trade.
Sure.
Okay. Anything else, Image Expo? So otherwise, let's move on to actually talking about the Emerald City Comicon.
Right on.
Okay, so the first day of the con was Thursday. It's a 4-day con now, and I know you weren't able to get there, which I didn't know at the time.
I was there. I was sitting in my hotel room going, God, I wish I was at that. And then when you started announcing stuff, and then I was really wishing I was there. So
yeah. So okay, so yeah, Thursday I get there. We actually drive out Thursday morning, and get there about 1:30. The con opens up at 2. So we were actually in the queue in that big mass area, but not for very long. And so that was nice. And so we get in there, and the first thing, so my goal this year, as it usually is, was to buy as many back issues as I could. And so that's the first thing, because usually, in years past, we've gone to the merch booth to get the exclusive Emerald City Comicon stuff. And, that's one thing I did like. Well, they've done this in years past, but, they announced those things well in advance. You could even pre-order them.
Right.
I think this is the first year you could do that, but I was not interested in any of that stuff. So usually we do that, and then we go off and look around a bit, and then I do some shopping. This year, we decided I was going to do the shopping first. So as soon as the doors opened, I went to the vendor, Randy's Readers Comics, which is the guy who sells the really cheap books at his booth. And I will be honest, Travis, because I had told you about this guy specifically because you said you were going to do some more shopping for comics this year. Yep. So I wanted to make sure that you were able to go to this guy and find some cheap back issues for the stuff you're looking for. Mm-hmm. However,
you bought me out.
I did not want you to buy my comics.
You bought me out, you bastard.
So I immediately went to Randy's and was looking through a bunch of stuff and bought a huge stack of books. It's probably like that many, not kidding. Left. But this is before, I did not know you were not at the con that day until that night. So so I bought these comics, and then went back several times over the weekend.
That's hilarious.
So I'm really curious what you got as far as Brave and the Bold, because there were a
Right.
few things that I missed, and maybe you got them. So we'll have to talk about that sometime.
Cool.
Let's see. So did that, and then I think it was about 4 o'clock, if I remember correctly, the DC Entertainment All Access panel was held on Thursday, which struck
Sucks.
me as weird because it's a pretty major panel for a major company, and they had it the first day late in the afternoon
Yeah.
of the con.
Right.
Really
On a Thursday, the day that not nearly as many people are showing up to, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, but of course, I was going to be there. I tried to go to as many publisher panels as I could, which actually ended up not being that many.
No.
Unfortunately,
No.
partly because when I got there, the panel was full. Even the smaller publisher panels were full, which weird to me, but good. I mean, it's cool that people are going, but and this was me trying to get there like half an hour early.
Right.
So I made sure, and I this occurred last year when I tried to get into the Image panel and a Marvel panel for that matter. I got there 15, 20 minutes early and the panel was already full. So I decided, okay, this year I'm going to get there at least 30 minutes early, if not 45 minutes early, which, that's time away from the con, the main floor of the con and shopping and stuff. It's like, oh man, which do I choose? It becomes a matter of deciding what you're going to miss out on if you want to go to these panels, because you have to get there early, and not even to mention the celebrity panels, in the main halls. Like, right. Oh my God. Because that was one of the draws for me this year. I know the celebrity stuff isn't all that you're not all that keen on it. Nope. But Nathan Fillion finally came to Emerald City Comicon. And by the way, anybody who's listening to this, you are welcome. I take credit for that because every year I've been going to the con and we get those, we want your feedback, and they say, well, who would you like to see come to Emerald City Comicon? And every year I have put Nathan Fillion. So you are welcome, internet. Anyway, so that was, I'll talk about that later. Anyway, so I go to the DC Entertainment All Access panel, and they made some interesting announcements.
Like the best announcement of the year. It was Christmas for me. So
that's right. So even though you weren't there, why don't you go ahead and talk about that thing?
So they announced, DC announced a new imprint called
a pop-up imprint, which an odd phrase. I'm not sure exactly what that means. Does that? Well, go on, and then I'll interject again.
Yeah, I don't know what that means. Called Young Animals, which is interesting. It occurred to me after the fact that Young Animals, if you take the first letter of both things, does that mean that it's a young adult publishing or whatnot? I was kind of curious if that was the case. But anyway, the big announcement was they pull up Gerard Way, who is the lead singer of My Chemical Romance, which is a side note. My daughter is 15 and just decided being a rabid fan. So when she heard that he was there, things were interesting in my hotel room because, of course, we were stuck in my hotel room and not at the panel, which, she would have been screaming like a fangirl if we were there, I'm sure. And they introduced that he is going to be doing Doom Patrol. And anybody who knows me knows that, like, Doom Patrol is my superhero team. Absolutely love it to death. And I was bummed because, of course, Rebirth kicked in and no Doom Patrol. They played it safe, and I was thinking, now we're never going to see an actual Doom Patrol. And so to get this, I'm pretty excited about it. I hear now that it's a mature reader book. Yeah. So they're not. So,
to your point of the YA equals young adult, I don't think that's the case here.
Yeah.
Because this is a Vertigo imprint, right? No, it's no. I'm sorry. What they talked about in relation to Vertigo with this Young Animals imprint is that Gerard Way wanted to evoke the
old Vertigo,
the original Vertigo, where things were kind of crazy and pushing the envelope and pushing boundaries, even though it was pre-Vertigo technically,
right?
What he's
right.
talking about,
the good old days.
Yeah. Those books that were coming out before they decided, hey, there's a thing here with these books and these
right.
creators and these stories. We should make an imprint, call it
right.
Vertigo.
Right.
So he wanted to evoke that.
Yeah.
So Doom Patrol.
Right. Super excited about that. And then they're also doing Shade the Changing Girl as opposed to Shade the Changing Man. I'll be all over that because that's another one of those books I absolutely loved. Because of course that was we were collecting comics back then, and I was collecting all of those titles before they became what was Vertigo. I mean, I was on that edge of, oh my God, look at all this crazy stuff that's coming out that's next to my superhero comics that aren't superhero comics, clearly. And so, yeah, excited for that. What was the other one? The other two was, one was, I can't remember the name. It's the one that's set in Gotham is.
Okay. Mother Panic,
which I know nothing about whatsoever.
So that's co-written by Gerard Way and Jody Houser with Tommy Lee Edwards on the art. Oh, and just jump back to Doom Patrol real quick. Nick Darrington is on the art of that one.
Yep.
And Shade the Changing Girl is written by Cecil Castellucci with Becky Cloonan on the art. And okay,
what? Wait. Becky Cloonan is actually doing the art? Seriously?
I believe so.
She's doing the covers.
Oh,
she's not doing the interiors.
Okay.
Because I would completely lose my mind if she was doing the interiors. Because I love Becky Cloonan. She's just doing the covers. She's not doing the interiors.
Okay, I probably missed that then.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm gonna look that up as you're talking. But Mother Panic. So that's set in Gotham.
Yeah. Right.
And so Mother Panic is going to be this new character who's going after the elite of Gotham, and the way that Gerard Way described that book was this is more of a mature reader's title set in the Batman universe. So that's interesting.
Yeah, right. And then the last one is what? It's Cave.
Oh, I love this title. Yeah, Cave Carson has a cybernetic eye.
Yeah. No clue what that's about either. So
Cave Carson is a very old DC character.
Right.
He's a spelunker, and that's people would read about his adventures spelunking, I guess. But apparently, and I didn't even know this, he has a cybernetic eye. And so Gerard wanted to explore this aspect of Cave Carson.
Nice.
I don't know anything else about it, but this is also, it's co-written by Way and John Rivera. Oh gosh, I can't read my writing. Nope, I have no idea what I wrote there. Anyway, but shoot, I apologize to the artist or to the co-writer, but the artist is Michael Avon Emming.
All right.
So that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So what was the response? What was the response there at the to him popping up and them announcing this
craziness? I know Gerard Way because I know he's associated with comics in some way. I couldn't tell you what title he's
Umbrella Academy.
Okay, so that's been a while though.
Well,
right?
New one's coming. Yeah, quite a while, but a new one's coming out here pretty soon.
That's
Dark Horse.
In the back of my head, they announced Gerard Way, and everybody's going crazy, and I'm like,
yeah, what?
And then they announce, they say in the introduction, he's I can't remember who was doing the announcement, if it was DiDio or Lee, I can't remember who. Anyway, said that a former DC intern and lead singer of My Chemical Romance. I'm like, oh, that's why.
Yeah.
Or maybe that's why. I don't know. But yeah, what was your question?
I was just curious what the response was there at the thing.
Yeah, well, So, you mean aside from just, oh, Gerard Way's here and he's doing
Yeah.
this pop-up imprint?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of, just like I was like, what are they doing? What?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they start talking about the early Vertigo feel, and he names off the titles and Doom Patrol. I'm like, oh my god, Travis is gonna love this.
Yeah. Yeah. Heck yeah.
And then like you said, Shade the Changing Girl, and that's just like you. I enjoyed that original Shade the Changing Man.
Mm-hmm.
Cave Carson's never been a character but just the whole craziness of the cybernetic
Sure.
eye, and then this idea of a mature Gotham setting Gotham titles. Like, wow, they're really doing something interesting here, or from the sound of it anyway. So that it was really cool. The for me, the vibe in the room was wow, this is really cool. This excitement, just the excitement of it. It was just really cool to be in that room when they were talking about all this stuff.
Well, because I had heard rumors that supposedly Doom Patrol was coming back, but I had heard that it was going to be announced at the Vertigo panel. So of course I was going to make sure the next day that I made it to the Vertigo panel, because that's where I thought it was going to be announced at. That was going to be announced through Vertigo, because I assumed that they were just rumor had it that they were going to bring some of this stuff back to, they'd taken everything away from the Vertigo as far as the those kinds of books, they'd taken them away from Vertigo, that they were going to bring some of them back to Vertigo. And so that's what I had heard. So I was surprised to hear then that they were doing a different imprint and whatnot. And but cool to be in a room where they're announcing some big craziness like that, because of course they did all the announcing like the week before at WonderCon, the whole Rebirth thing. Right. So I kind of thought, if I can make it to DC panels, I want to make it to them. But I figured there was going to be a whole lot of wait and see is what we're going to get for answers and be told stuff because of course they'd done the big brouhaha the week before. What could they possibly be telling us now that would be that interesting or exciting, right? But lo and behold.
Well, and see, to that point, I saw, I think maybe it was on Twitter, somebody had, or maybe it was some article talking about the WonderCon. I think that's what it was. I think I was reading articles about the WonderCon Rebirth stuff. And somebody, maybe it was DeDio, maybe it was Lee, maybe it was Jeff Johns for that matter. They said something about there would be more news at Emerald City. So I knew I had to go to.
Sure. I had heard that.
To see. So yeah, I'm gonna come back to that pop-up imprint question in a second, but sure. I looked it up. I want to make sure credit is given correctly here. Sure. You are correct. Covers by Becky Cloonan on Shade the Changing Girl. The artist, and I apologize to the artist, Marley Zarconi, is the artist on that, and it's John Rivera who is the co-writer. My scratchy handwriting, I couldn't quite get. I thought it was a 3-name person. It wasn't. Anyway, so yeah, pop-up imprint. So does that mean that the door is now open for a creative person like Gerard Way to come to DC and say, "Hey, I've got these ideas for books." Uh-huh.
Depending on who you are, I bet, yeah.
Or do you think it's just because of him and his particular vision that they didn't want to tie it to Vertigo or the main DC universe, even though he's using, except for Mother Panic, and Shade the Changing Girl, but it's it's a callback to the original.
Sure.
These are established DC characters.
They are, but they're also all characters that are ripe for change. Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman, those are characters that are not ripe for change. Not really. Let's be realistic here, right? They have to stay within a certain whatever. All these characters, even though they're characters they're characters that you could just kind of, I think it's established. You can kind of do whatever with. You could put them all on LSD and it's going to be fine. Kind of a thing. It doesn't matter. So I don't know. I mean, I think I'm guessing it's a combination of things. I think there are other creators out there, if they suddenly showed up at DC and said, "Oh man, I'd really like to do some stuff with these things," that they might have enough weight and like generate enough excitement. I mean, so this, guy Way doing this, he brings a number of things to the table. He brings the fandom from the Umbrella Academy and that sort of stuff, because that's kind of an odd kind of a story and whatnot. And he also brings pop culture with him in a sense, because I would be willing to bet that my daughter will be bugging the crap out of me about when those books are coming out. And for her, it's a matter of she's going to read it because of the personality who's writing the stuff is what's going to matter to her. So you have an audience that's going to show up based on that. I think it's the same way. I think there are other creators out there, whether they be in comics or otherwise, that if they showed up and went, hey, we want to do this, if they can find a way to create a vision for them, that they'll use it. I mean, because I think DC is still looking for a way to get a better thumb on the pulse of youth, and I think is a way to do that. I mean, granted, My Chemical Romance has been gone for almost 10 years now. I mean, he has a solo career and is doing some stuff, but clearly that younger generation of kids is still listening to their work, because Chloe certainly wasn't. My daughter certainly wasn't listening to any of that stuff when it was actually coming out. So, and I'm not a Chemical Romance fan. It's like she got it from me. She got it from, her friends. So that, age group is still listening to that stuff. So I think there's something to be said for that. And I think that's why one of the reasons why DC is doing it also. It's a way for them to reboot characters that I think a lot of us have been clamoring about. Just like there's a contingent of people out there that are constantly going, bring us more Poison Ivy, bring us more Poison Ivy. There's a contingent of us out there who every chance we get, we'll drop Doom Patrol's name down wherever we possibly can in hopes to, to bring about that comic coming back in some form. So I don't know. I think, yes, I think if Grant Morrison suddenly showed up again and went, hey, I want to do some really weird stuff, create me an imprint, I think DC would figure out a way to create a pop-up imprint for Grant Morrison to do whatever he wanted to do, right?
Yeah, I would hope so.
Right.
Can he do a multiversity imprint?
No doubt, right? But I don't, I think, yeah, to me, that's kind of exciting though, to know that we could suddenly get something's a little off the beaten path that isn't going to be so strangled by hopefully so strangled by editorial to fit within the box of whatever DC wants their image to look like right now.
But why not just make it part of Vertigo? Because it's obviously, as I said, and Gerard Way said, he's trying to evoke that early Vertigo sense.
Right. So you went to the Vertigo panel with me, right? Right. We were both at the Vertigo panel, and people got up and asked the question, are you going to bring any of this stuff back to Vertigo? The Swamp Thing, the Hellblazer, the whatever. And what was Shelley Bond's response to that? We're more focused on creator-driven, whatever, creator owned. I don't know if she used creator owned, but she basically said, we're not doing, we got a few licensed things, but those things that we are using that are licensed things are stuff that was created within the Vertigo universe, the Lucifers and that sort of stuff. That's what we're going to focus on. So clearly they have decided that once they pulled that stuff out of, with the New 52, pulling everything away from, that was part of the DC universe proper at one point, they pulled all that stuff back out and they're not bringing them back to Vertigo. Vertigo is going to continue to be a focus of that. So that's why they didn't put it in Vertigo, would be my guess.
It just seems an somewhat odd situation is all. Not that I'm advocating that it should be part of Vertigo. It's just, and because I do kind of like what Shelley Bond was talking about in that Vertigo panel about the focus being on the creator vision driven work as opposed to derivative stuff, the corporate characters, if you will.
Right. So, but I mean, I guess this still begs the question. I mean, so Vertigo is an imprint of DC. Why wasn't Young Animals then an imprint of Vertigo, right? Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
with that,
it's interesting. I'm
marketing. That's why.
Well, yeah. Well, and okay. So here's my last thought on this. Like I said, I knew Gerard Way in a sense. I read some Umbrella Academy. I think thanks to you. I think you let me borrow the trades. But to me, the guy is, I don't know. I guess I don't get the excitement with his involvement with this?
Just because his name isn't Rick Springfield or something, when he's writing comics. So, right?
Hey, don't mess with my Rick.
I'm just saying that that's part of it, though. I think that's part of it. I mean, but there are a lot of people who really liked Umbrella Academy, thought it was great, super excited for the next stuff to finally, at some point, hopefully come out. They've been clamoring for that. There were people who really liked True Lies, the Fabulous Killjoys.
Okay.
So that's where some of that comes from. I mean, he has wanted to do comics for a long time. True Lies of the Fabulous Killjoy, of course, was a concept album before it was the comic book, but it was supposed to be a comic book first.
Right.
And he could never get the comic book off the ground at the time, so he cut a concept album with My Chemical Romance instead. And then, of course, this a couple of years ago, we then got the comic book based around the album. But originally it was supposed to be, he wrote it as a concept for a comic book first, and just couldn't get it, the details of it all worked out. So
sure. But from an outsider's and apparently disconnected from the greater popular culture person like myself,
sure.
This guy has written a couple comics. He gets his own imprint. What? That was kind of my reaction.
Oh, okay, I get it. Well, clearly he must. I'm assuming he came to DC and had more to sell than, I'm, this ex-pop singer, and you should give me 4 comic books to control. Clearly he must have something more than that.
Yeah.
And whatever. I would be interesting to know more of the background as to who talked to who, how, and what, how did they strike this deal and come to the decision to do the 4 books that they're doing. And my question is if these 4 books are successful, what else are we going to see? Because, if they're successful, something else is going to show up, right? They're going to, they'll milk it for what it's worth.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody better go out and buy Doom Patrol so it's damn successful. Even if it's horrible, even if it's a horrible book, got to go out and buy it.
Well, I'm hoping that our comic book supplier, DCB Service, will provide us with a nice bundle for the Young Animals series. But I guess it depends on when they're being released.
I haven't, to tell you the truth, I haven't looked up anything on those titles at all. Have they given an indication as to when those we might actually start seeing them?
Okay, so I'm looking at the DC Comics website, and Doom Patrol starts in September. Shade, the Changing Girl, and Cave Carson Has a Cybernetic Eye. I will never get tired of saying that title. Those start in October, and then Mother Panic in November. So okay. I guess we won't get a nice bundle, except for maybe the 2. Well, that's too bad. Well, I understand why they wouldn't want to do them all at once.
Well, right, because you have to make choices, right?
Yeah. So there you go. I'm interested in all these, actually.
Same here. Oh. Now I just got to figure out where the time and money comes from to read them.
Yeah. Okay, so that was Thursday. Is there anything else you want to talk about as far as Thursday? Oh, we had dinner. We got together. Had a lovely dinner with our 2 families, and talked comics. That was actually, I have to admit, it was one of the highlights of that weekend for me. So
same here.
I was enjoying getting together, talking with you guys, and we talked about the Gerard Way announcement and stuff, and I got schooled on My Chemical Romance from your daughter, and that was cool. Because she doesn't normally talk a whole lot to me, so it was really cool that she was interacting with me, and I talked with Ethan, and that was all really cool. And of course, your lovely wife.
Yeah. I was told that me and you talked a whole bunch, and I'm like, I didn't think we talked that much. What do you mean?
Travis, come on.
I know. It just goes by really fast, I guess. So.
It does. I know. Just like what we're doing right now, because we are I think we're over an hour in.
Nice.
we're only on the first day of Emerald City Comicon. All right, so maybe we should try and speed through the rest of it. One more thing, I forgot. Oh shoot! One other announcement at that DC All Access panel was the Commandy Challenge.
Yeah.
So you remember that old DC challenge that they did back in what was it, 1985?
Yes, I'm that old too. Yes.
Yeah, I actually bought that thing.
Yeah.
And so they're doing a similar thing with featuring the Commandy character. And I know you're a fan of Commandy,
Yeah.
right?
Heck yeah.
So they're doing just to describe what this is. They're doing a 12-issue series, and each issue has its own creative team.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to basically so the first issue will be the setup, and then they'll end that issue, and the next creative team on the second issue has to pick up where the first team left off and continue the story, but it has to be an interconnecting story.
Right.
The curious thing about that is that there were 13 creative teams announced, apparently.
Right.
So what's that about?
Right.
But
for 12 issues. Uh-huh.
Yeah, right. But let me just talk about the people involved.
Sounds awesome.
Right? Yeah. And I'm not a big Commandy fan, to be honest, but this concept.
I own them all.
I know. But this concept sounds really cool. So I'm just going to list the names real quick. Dan Abnett, Dale Eaglesham. That's the first team. Peter Tomasi and Neil Adams is another one. Amanda Connor and Jimmy Palmiotti.
Yeah.
James Tynan IV and Carlos Danda. Bill Willingham and Ivan Reis.
Yes.
Yeah. Steve Orlando and Philip Tan. Ooh. Marguerite Bennett and Dan Jurgens.
Yeah.
Keith Giffen and Steve Rude. Oh, that's
right.
Oh, wow.
Giffen and Rude. That's going to be
Tom
awesome.
King and Kevin Eastman.
Yes. Yes.
Eastman.
Yes.
Greg Tuck and Joe Prado.
Mm-hmm.
Rob Williams and Walter Simonson.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Some of the names, yes, sir.
Yeah. Gail Simone and Ryan
Sook. Yeah.
Yeah. As well as as well as Len Wein and Jose Luis Garcia Lopez.
Wow. And what are they doing?
Yes. I don't know, but I don't care.
They're the 13th. They're the 13th. Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be.
Maybe they're going to do like they'll have the main the main part of each issue, but maybe there's like a backup or some sort of extra material that Wein and Garcia Lopez are going to do. I don't know. I'm totally guessing here.
Yeah.
I don't care. That's a lot of cool people involved with this.
Sure.
Anyway, no debut date though, unfortunately. So far as I can tell. Wow, that's going to be cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was Thursday. Friday, Travis, what'd you do on Friday? So that was your first day of the con.
Right. So I decided I was not going to queue up at all. So I didn't do the mass. I mean, all years past, I would get there at the crack of dawn. So I was like one of the first 15 people standing at the very beginning of the line so I could rush in to get whatever I needed to. I didn't have a game plan as far as any particular thing that I needed to get or whatever. So for me, I waited until after it was 10 o'clock and just walked into the con without having to stand in the giant, pit of, 10,000 people waiting to rush the doors or whatever. So, so I wandered in and what did I do first? I went by the Wicked and Divine table, basically, where that whole group of guys are at and whatnot. And it was already like 4 rows deep as far as being lined up. I mean, they really are. They seem to me like at the con, they were the creative team to be lined up for. They were the pop stars of the
superstars
of the it really was them. That's Kieran Gillian, Jamie McKelvey, and Matt Wilson, right? Colors. So I thought about going there and he said, no, I don't really need to do that. I decided I better go buy comic books really quickly so somebody else didn't buy all the comic books.
Too late.
Yes. So I went by and I bought a big old stack. I mean, I probably bought 20, 25 comics that early that first morning.
That's it? You amateur.
No, that was the first morning. So I bought that. And then I just decided, you know what, this is one of the days where there's less people. I'm going to try and run into as many creators as I can, get books signed and that sort of stuff. And I spent most of the day wandering around getting books signed, bouncing between the two halves of the con floor, getting books signed, trying to figure out when people were actually going to be at their tables and whatnot. Met some other YouTube friends on Friday. But yeah, that's what I spent most of Friday doing was getting stuff signed and talking to creators and whatnot. Was Friday the day we went to the Vertigo panel?
Yes.
Okay, so I went to there was an Image panel before the Vertigo panel, and I went to the Image panel, and it was Image Creates Drama or something like that was the title of it. So it had more to do with drama type thing. Then on the panel, I'm not going to be able to remember everybody, unfortunately. Steve Orlando was on the panel for his book Virgil. Joshua Williams, writer of Nailbiter and Birthright, was on the panel. The artist, which I can't remember his name, for Ringside was there. Jim Zub was there, and there's somebody else there that I can't remember, a book I'd never even heard of before. But that's who was at the panel, and of course it had David, what's his name? David Brothers runs all the Image panels. He's a great, I think he's an excellent
I like him.
Moderator. I mean, he's involved at Image. He helps do a number of stuff there, but he runs all their panels. He's a really smart grid talker and kind of does a good job of kind of interviewing a panel of people to get something out of them, maybe more than we would get otherwise. So I sat on that panel, and of course that's the panel that Jim Zub was talking about, his new book that's going to be coming out. And that's what sold me on getting that, which the Glitter Bomb, I don't know if I would have an interest otherwise, but getting to see the first couple pages. And he goes, literally, this is the pitch I gave them. I was confident enough. I just decided, what, I'm going to have the artist do these first 3 pages. I'm going to give them to, Image and just go, read these. If you don't like it, fine, whatever, and if you do, awesome. He goes, that's not how you normally pitch anything.
Right.
But he did. And of course the book is, going to go on and whatnot. And he also talked about Wayward, which is a book I have had zero interest in, mostly because it's always been pitched to me as being, kind of a Buffy the Vampire Slayer in Japan. And I'm not a Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan. Whatever. it's fine, but nothing that excites me. So I've had zero interest in it. But listening to him talk about the book and getting to see some of the art from the book and whatnot, I then afterwards rushed to his booth and bought the first trade from him because it sounded so much cooler than what I had been told that the book was about. It was a lot of Joshua Williams talking about Nailbiter. Nailbiter clearly it was a very popular book. Most of the audience was pretty excited by that. I have to admit, after about issue 5, I think I dropped the book, mostly because I was running into serial killer fatigue. It seemed like I had a lot of books at the time I was reading that were all serial killer based, and I decided, some book has to go. That one wasn't holding my attention as much as some of the others, so that's the one I dropped. Now I'm maybe have to go back and pick up trades and whatnot because it sounds like it's gotten interesting, kind of a thing.
Travis, this is just a conspiracy to part our money from us.
Exactly. That's really what it was. But no, it was a really cool panel, just kind of talking about drama and how they, put drama in a book and how they use it and whatnot. And so it was an enjoyable panel. And then of course I went straight from that panel to line up to the Vertigo panel because I wasn't sure. In years past, the Vertigo panel has been held in a smaller room and usually has a pretty large group of people at it. Mind you, Fables is done now, and there was always a huge audience that were Fables people. Mm-hmm. And so I wasn't sure exactly how big it was going to be. So I lined up for that and was, of course, first in line.
I was going to say, yeah. When I got there, you were at the front.
Well, because there was like a 15-minute, 20-minute break between the two. And I was torn because at the same time the Vertigo panel is going on, 10 minutes before that, right next door, the Wicked and Divine panel starts.
Yes.
I really love that book. And I really like sitting in on panels that has those guys, because those guys are best buddies, and it shows they love what they're doing. They love the pop culture thing. It's basically a giant spectacle. I think it's pretty much as close as you get to kind of a rock and roll show for comic books. I mean, kind of a thing. To me is how it always is. Those are really fun. But I kept thinking they're going to announce something at Vertigo. I need to be at the Vertigo thing. And originally my intention was to go to the Vertigo thing first, because like I said, I had heard rumors that that's where they're going to announce Doom Patrol. And I thought, well, maybe they'll talk about it again at the Vertigo panel. That's why my daughter was there. And I knew if I didn't make sure she got to that, if Wade happened to show up again, because of course she missed him at the other one, I would be killed. So, so we were at the Vertigo panel, which was fine because I enjoyed that too.
I did too, but do you wish that you had gone to the Image one now? So do I.
Because they announced nothing. I mean, I really didn't learn. I mean, I like listening to all those creators that were on the Vertigo panel talk, what they have to say and whatnot. They're all really interesting people and have, great stuff to say about what they're doing and whatnot. I like those two editors that were there, Jamie S. Rich and Shelley Bond. They're both, interesting, smart people who have a lot of stuff going on themselves. But yeah, I wish, because you could hear the laughing. You could hear the laughing and crazy, because all there is that kind of, that, I don't know what kind of that, the rollaway barriers, what was between us and the other, ballroom that had them in it. And you could hear stuff going on. I'm thinking, that I wish I would have gone to it.
Yeah.
For sure.
Like I said, I tried, my intent was to go to as many publisher panels as possible. And so I made the choice to go to the Vertigo one. And I kind of regret that, just because, like you, McKelvey and Gillen are just, they're interesting and funny guys. I follow them on Twitter, and when they go off of each other on Twitter, it's like, it's the best entertainment.
It is.
And they clearly love each other, and it just shows. And the stuff they've been doing on Wicked and Divine has just been divine. Mm-hmm. So, that was it. Oh, since you brought up Image again, I forgot to mention one of the things. I think it was announced at Image Expo. I'm pretty sure it was announced at the Image Expo. Big news in the sense of Karen Berger, who used to run Vertigo.
She's editing a book.
She's editing Surgeon X, or is it Surgeon 10? I think it's Surgeon X is the name of the title, name of the book. But she's going to be editing that book. Presumably, she'll be doing more work for Image Comics.
Now, why do we presume that?
I'm just assuming.
I don't know why people presume. I mean, like, big score for Image to get. She's editing a book, and clearly, if I was marketing a book and I somehow was good enough friends with her to have her editing my book, I sure as hell would advertise that she's editing my book, because we all know who she is. She's a heavyweight. I mean, she is basically Vertigo. And so I'd make sure to have her name announced. Of course, she was actually there. I would use that as much as I could. I guess I'm not of the belief that we're suddenly going to see her doing, unless she's getting back into the editing business of comics. Maybe we'll see her, doing more, but I don't. I guess I would think that if she was actually working for Image and not working for the creators on that book, they would have announced it differently, wouldn't they? Wouldn't they have announced that she's doing more or whatever?
Yeah, you're probably right.
To me, it was just like, it was a selling point. I mean, don't get me wrong. Excited to see her back in comics. That's a comic I'd forgotten about, but I'll be checking it out, just because she must like it enough if she's willing to put her name on it. I would guess to get back into comics, that's what she would choose to do. But I don't see that as being a coup to Image Comics at this point, because I believe that they would have announced that differently and shown it differently. I think if it wasn't just about her and that book.
So it might be too soon to really tell, but I could see her doing more. Maybe she's just an editor at large, and she just happened to be doing this book for Image. But because I don't know how the editorial structure works at Image.
There isn't one.
So it's just the creative team works with a particular person.
If they choose to have an editor or not. I mean, that's a lot of it. Some of those creative teams want an editor. They feel like they need that other set of eyes. And then there's those that don't at all.
Right. Right.
So, I mean, not to say that there isn't, I'm sure there is some I've heard discussions. So there clearly is, Image does have some influence over the books that are there and how they're produced in some sense. But really it's up to them. They may go, hey, maybe you want to go here, you want to do this, but clearly if the creators go, hell no, I want to do that instead, they don't stop them from doing whatever. But I know there is some, conversation with those upper, people there, but there really isn't an editorial staff. I mean, that, David Brothers is the editorial staff in a sense, because he does help kind of, move things one direction or another, but all based on a suggestion, not as in this is where we want the line to go or that sort of thing. So,
but still, Karen Berger, back to editing comics, whether it's this one, it's a big deal. She obviously has the reputation that she deserves here. So we should be paying attention to that.
Yeah.
Anything else on Friday for you, Travis?
No. I went. I went and did a bunch of shopping, but yeah.
So I did the same thing. I went back to to Randy's and bought more stuff, and it was interesting. Okay, so I said earlier I was going to talk about some reactions to the way that the con is being run now. I don't know if this has anything to do with it for sure, but I was asking Randy about how things were going for him as far as sales go, because he's been there every year that I've been at the con, and I buy a ton of books from the guy, and I'm just amazed that he continues to provide such an interesting collection of books, and so cheaply.
Right.
But he surprised me in his answer. He said that he may not be back next year.
I heard that from a number of comic book vendors.
Yes. So one of the things that he said, it cost him, maybe I shouldn't be saying this, but it cost him $1,200 just to be there. That's the booth cost, and also he mentioned something about paying people to help him get all the stuff in and out and all that stuff.
Sure.
So he's got to sell $1,200 worth of inventory at minimum just to break even. And he's selling his books at usually $1 or $2,
right,
for the most part. I mean, there are some that
I saw a few $6 or $7 ones, but
yeah. I bought a few of those this time, but for the most part, they're pretty cheap comics, and so he has to sell a lot of stuff to break even. And there were a few other comments from not necessarily comic vendors that I encountered, but other vendors who were not as happy about certain situations. There was one vendor that was upstairs where all of the photo ops
selling comics. The one lady that was up there selling comics.
Oh no, that's not who I'm talking about.
Okay.
But still, that obviously there's more than just one.
Yeah.
No, there's another vendor who was like, no one knew we were up here. They felt like the con advertising, or at least the information placement, or whatever you want to call it, was not good enough for that area that was upstairs. Even though it was a high traffic area, I didn't see as many people walking around the vendor stuff as there were, in comparison to the ton of people who were lined up for autographs and photo ops.
Right.
So I can understand their frustration there. So, and there's some other things I'll get to, but let's see here. So I did that. There was a Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog panel.
All right.
And I only went to that for two reasons. One, Madison, my 10-year-old, is a huge fan of that show. We watched it one time, she and I, and she loves it. I have the soundtrack. She continually asks me to play it as we're driving around, taking her to school or picking her up from gymnastics, whatever. She's constantly asking me to play that. So I wanted to take her to that so that she could experience fans coming together and singing along. Unfortunately, it didn't work quite like I had hoped it would be, or hoped it would work. And then the second reason was that app, the Emerald City Comicon app, that they made for the con. I don't know if you used that or not, Travis.
Unfortunately, yes, I did.
Oh, unfortunately. Okay, we'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
So in that app for that panel, no, not for the panel. I was looking up what Nathan Fillion, because you could select the celebrity guest and to see what they were doing, and it listed all of his autograph sessions.
Sure.
It also listed him as host for the Sing Along blog.
Really?
That was not part of, if you went to the panel description on the website, that was not listed there. But in this app, it listed him as host. So I thought, how cool would that be if you go to this panel to watch the Sing Along blog and sing along, and Nathan Fillion comes out to sing Captain Hammer's parts.
Right.
Okay. Down to earth. He didn't show up.
No, of course not.
They even announced this at the beginning. Nathan Fillion will not be here, folks.
Nah.
And then they had some technical difficulties. We actually didn't even get to finish watching the whole thing. But we went to that. There was a gentleman that I was sitting next to who was rather boisterous in his singing. And Madison commented later that she was disappointed because she couldn't hear. She couldn't hear the actual Sing Along blog performance,
right?
Because this guy was singing so loudly. But you know what? He was a super fan, and he was getting out of that panel what he wanted to get out of that panel. So more power to him. Let's see here. Travis, have you heard about the series Con Man?
No.
It was one of those. I don't know if it was a Kickstarter or if it was one of the. I think maybe Indiegogo. Maybe I think it was. Yeah, I think it was done through there. But a crowdsourced thing. This is a project that Alan Tudyk of Firefly fame put together. Him and Nathan Fillion worked on it. They got together PJ Harzma to produce it. They got a bunch of different people involved. If you're at all interested, Travis, I'll let you borrow my DVD that I bought there, because it's so much fun. It kind of pokes fun at cons and the things that happen at cons, but if you don't take those things too seriously, it's quite entertaining. It's quite funny, but at the same time, going back to the management, we were talking to the guy who sold us the DVD, and he made a mention of how the con. So I think my wife actually asked or said something along the lines, it'd be really cool if Alan Tudyk was here to help promote this. And like I said, I don't remember who said it, if it was him or her, but he told us that the con would not pay. They wanted to bring Alan out for this because PJ Harzman was actually there, the producer of the show.
Right.
And Nathan was there. So it made a lot of sense to bring Alan Tudyk. They could have had a panel, everything.
Sure.
But the con didn't want to pay to bring Alan out. For whatever reason, I don't know. So there's that, and let's see. Yeah, then we went. Then my notes for that day, we went to the Vertigo panel. I found out about the Vertigo does its own podcast. It's called In the Gutters with Jamie Rich, which I didn't know about. So I'm gonna have to go find that.
No. That's not exactly right. The In the Gutters is a YouTube thing that Jamie Rich helps produce that's outside of the Vertigo thing. The Vertigo thing is the lounge.
Yes, I see that now. Right.
Yeah, where every podcast they have a different drink and they have some fun.
Right. Okay, you're right. I do have that in my notes. I got confused there. And also the Dark and Bloody series was talked about, and then I was asking you questions during the presentation. Now I want to read the book.
Yeah. Which they showed all kinds of spoilers.
Right. Yeah.
Because of course the book came out Wednesday, and of course I get my book shipped to me, so I wouldn't get my books normally until Friday. Of course, I'm not home on Friday. I'm at the con, and so they were showing the big reveal. They actually show that on the when they're showing slides, they show the big reveal, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting, kind of a thing. That well, there's that. So, and that's the one of the shots they show is the big reveal at the very end of that issue, which of course is the midway point of the miniseries. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, Travis, if you don't mind, I'm going to, unless you have something else for Friday to talk about.
Nope.
Okay, so Friday night, I'm gonna go off on a tangent because this is not con related, but another event was going on Friday night in Seattle at the Paramount Theater. That I have to be quite honest, I was probably at certain points more excited about this than I was about the con, because this year is the 50th anniversary of Star Trek, and part of that celebration was this Star Trek: The Ultimate Voyage, I think is what it's called. But it was a presentation, a video. So they had video. They shot video for this, but it was an orchestra playing the music from Star Trek. So the movie themes, various themes from the television series, all of the series. As they were showing this video, it was awesome. You know how big of a Star Trek fan I am.
Oh yeah, huge, right?
So and Star Trek, I've mentioned this many times on the podcast. Star Trek was my first fandom before comics, and so to be here during the 50th anniversary, I haven't been watching it for that long, but I came about 10 years after Star Trek started, but just to be in that theater and listen to that music, I am man enough to admit that I might have had tears in my eyes at one point.
Awesome.
It was so cool to be there to listen to that main Star Trek theme with that orchestra. I don't have the words to describe how cool it was. So that was really cool, and I got to experience that with my family, even though Madison was bored. She sat next to me and she was like, when is this over? So, but anyway, it was really cool. And basically the theater was sold out. I don't know how many seats the Paramount has, but I heard from one of the ushers there that it was basically sold out. And it was only a one night performance in Seattle, because this is a traveling show. It's going to major cities across the country, and it was announced after we had already decided to go to the con and bought our tickets and all this stuff, and it's like, oh my god, I actually get to go to this thing. It was awesome. It was very awesome. Okay, so Saturday of the con, biggest day of the of the con, the biggest day of the show. Like we talked about earlier, it didn't feel like it. It was just like a normal Saturday at the Emerald City Comicon, which was cool, very cool. Let's see here. If you don't mind, I'll go first here because I don't have much. I did more shopping. Travis, did you make it to Comics Dungeon? To that vendor? They're the ones with the black comic boxes, and they were selling most of their stuff for $2.
No, I didn't get to that one.
You next year you need to go there.
Yeah.
So Comics Dungeon is it's actually a local shop. It's in Seattle. I believe that's the one that Jim DeMonakis is a co-owner of or owns or something.
Right.
But the guy that was there, I see him every year. He's a big bald guy. Really, really awesome. Very helpful. I bought a lot of stuff from him. Went back a few times. I bought a lot of stuff. And their comics. So, Randy's usually has a lot of late 70s, early 80s stuff. Mm-hmm. Comics Dungeon usually has a lot of mid 80s to, into the 90s and 2000s. So they're more modern-ish stuff.
Sure.
So you get that nice range between those two vendors. But I bought a lot of stuff from them. That was the day of the Nathan Fillion panel. We actually went early. And you know how big the main hall there is.
Oh, yeah. Huge.
It's a lot of people.
Well, it's where they queue everybody up at to let you into the con, right? In the mornings where you queue up at, they clear everybody out, and then that's where the main isn't that.
I think you're right. Yeah.
It's huge. It's huge.
So anyway, so we knew, he's the big draw. Well, him and who's the guy, Norman Reedus from The Walking Dead, but he was only there for photo and I think autograph opportunities. He was not, as far as I know, he didn't do any panels. So Nathan was the big draw.
Well, what's his face was there too? Not John. What's his name? The guy who's now playing the Punisher. Wasn't he there?
He was Yes,
and
they had a panel.
and he did panels.
Yes.
Yeah.
Rosenthal, right?
Yeah,
John?
right. It is John, right? John Rosenthal?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, so we knew Nathan was going to be
The big one.
full. And it was. And in fact, it was standing room only at some point. I appreciated the con for allowing people to be there in the back room and on the side walls, to be standing there, to be in the panel, and not just say you can't be in here.
Right.
I mean, they had to make it more organized because people were just kind of in masses
Right.
in the back. But in fact, we were there early, guessing it was going to be like that, and so we actually sat in on most of the Flash panel. So they had the actor who plays Wally West in the show, and I'm not caught up on the show, so I haven't even seen this guy show up because I've only seen the first season. I haven't watched the second season at all.
Mm-hmm.
They had Wally West. They had the guy who plays Firestorm.
Ronnie's Firestorm, right?
Yes. Sorry.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, because there's a new. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Right. So they on the Legends of Tomorrow, it's a different set of characters, but
right.
The guy who played Firestorm, Ronnie, in the first season of Flash, he was there, and then of course what's her name? She's Killer Frost in the comics.
Caitlin Snow, right? Isn't that the character name?
Exactly. So they were there. It was interesting to listen to them talk about the show and everything, and talk about how apparently they're doing Earth 2 versions of these characters showing up in the Flash. So which makes me really want to watch that second season now. But then, like I said, I was there for Nathan Fillion, and it was really great listening to him talk. He's charming. He's funny. I'm a big fan of his. I have a joke for you, Travis. He told a joke. I want to tell you this joke.
Okay.
What? The listeners are going to love this. What is a pirate's favorite letter?
R.
You would think so, but it's actually the C.
Oh.
You told that joke. Anyway, I love that joke. Let's see here. Oh, so another thing that we did, my granddaughter Madison brought home some months ago, a couple books by Raina Telgemeier. She did the book Smile, Drama, and Sisters. And so Madison brings these home from the school library. I get a hold of them and read them and instantly fall in love, because these are great all ages comic book stories. And they're all standalone books. You don't have, there's no, well, no, I guess that's not true. I guess Sisters and Drama. I haven't read Smile, so I'm probably just talking out of the side of my mouth and I don't know what I'm talking about. But anyway, good comics is what it was. And so I made it a point to take Madison to see Miss Telgemeier, and so they could talk and we could tell her how much we enjoyed her work. And so we finally got to do that. That was Saturday. Stopped by, and they actually did a panel with her that I could not make it to, but we were hoping to be able to buy all the books. Like I said, she got them from the library. She got two of them from the library. The third book wasn't there. So we were hoping to buy all the books and maybe ask her to Telgemeier to sign them, and found out that she wasn't allowed to sell her books there. We had to go, the con apparently wanted people to go to the university bookstore that was on that top level.
Oh, right.
To buy books like that and then take them down to the creators who were there to have them sign them. Which was, so that's another, and Kitcher and I are kind of starting to tally up these comments about how things are being run now.
Right.
So, and there's another one I'll get to as well. But in the end, Kitcher was able to, she went up to the university bookstore that was on that floor, came back down, and was able to have Miss Telgemeier sign the book. She actually drew some stuff in the inside pages for Madison. which is really great. And she also gave us, she actually did have on her person the sneak preview to the next book that she's going to do.
All right.
So that was really cool. Let's see here. Oh, I bought a new Nightwing shirt. Big surprise, right?
Yeah.
I actually showed that. There's a couple of videos I just posted to YouTube where I show off all the comics I bought and then the other things that I bought.
Mm-hmm.
And so people can go do that. We went and talked to Kyle from Kirby Crackle, because we do that every year because Kyle's an awesome guy.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
And he had a Nerd Rock panel that we went to as well. But unfortunately, unlike every other time I've been to the Emerald City Comicon, Kyle was not performing. He usually does an acoustic set.
Right, yeah.
He did not do one this year because, ding, 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 the con didn't want to do that. They wanted to move in a different direction or something like that. What that means exactly, I'm not sure.
I heard move in a different direction get thrown about twice myself.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
So that was disappointing, but it was really cool to see him and get to talk with him a little bit. And that's it. That was my day pretty much, I think. What about you?
So my first problem was I got to breakfast late, and you know how it is there. There's only so many places you can eat breakfast close by.
Or eat in general.
Right. And so, got stuck in the long wait forever to eat breakfast kind of thing. So I was really late getting to the con. I mean, typically I would be there at opening. I don't think we got there until probably 11:30 or so. I had some more books signed. The day before, I had been at Riley Rosmo's booth at his table and had looked at some art that I told myself I wasn't going to look at because I really kind of was trying to make a plan to not buy any original art pages this year.
You failed miserably on that, didn't you?
I did, as I kind of figured I probably would in reality, even though I spent months swearing up and down this is going to be the year I didn't buy anything. But I decided I was good. There were some pages. There was a double page spread from Constantine Hellblazer that the price was too good to walk away from. And I decided, you know what, if somebody else hasn't bought it, I'm going to go back today. And if it's there, I'm getting it. And it was there. So I got that. So I had a long conversation with him, which was great. For me, he's really nice. I've had a number of great conversations with him. So I got that. That took up a long chunk of time. Then I met a friend from Twitter that I've talked to for years. I met them for lunch, had a great lunch with them. And then I just I wandered the con floor and pretty much got most of the rest of the books that I brought with me signed. I had a massive pile of books that I thought I wanted to get signed. I got almost everything signed then on Saturday, but Saturday was more of for me, because I missed the image panel. There was an image panel about 11:45 that I wanted to go to, that I was done with breakfast at the time that it was going to be starting. So I didn't get to it. But most of Saturday was just kind of wander the con floor with no real, I have to go do this and whatnot. I really, it was some of just kind of looking to see what was at every booth, the booths that normally in the past I would kind of blow past to kind of check out what they were. I had Ethan with me, my son. I kind of followed him as to where he thought he wanted to go, who he wanted to talk to, and stuff. But yeah, Saturday was actually pretty low key. I mean, it was crowded, but I did, because I didn't have oh my gosh, I need to do this or whatever. It was actually pretty cool. Talked with a lot of creators, and that was my Saturday day. After the con was over with, I got a message from somebody else that kind of lives in the area that was wanted to meet up, and so he invited me to the Sheridan Lounge, and the Sheridan Lounge is the official lounge of Emerald City Comicon. So I went down to that night. I don't know, 8:30, 9 o'clock or whatever, and it was packed. I've been to rock and roll concerts that were more quiet, that were less noisy than what that place was.
Well, and every night that we went back to our hotel room after the con, that place was packed. So it's
yeah. So like if you weren't sitting right next to somebody, that was the only person you could have a conversation with, because past a single person, the volume was so loud that you even screaming, really, that person wasn't hearing you. Had a few drinks and rubbed elbows with a ton of people. And that was yes, really. That was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun because, well, first I got to meet more people and for me, that was one of the great things about this con was I got to have dinner with you. I got to meet some other people that I've never actually met in person. And then those were all great experiences, meeting other fans, that have the same level of love for the medium as me, which is always, for me, is always great. Because of course we live kind of out in the middle of nowhere. Both of us do, where it never feels like there's many other, I don't know, are we super fans? Whatever we are, that have the same level of love that we do. So it's just cool to go someplace and have a prolonged conversation with that and whatnot. And I was fortunate enough that, the guy I was originally meeting there, he lives in the Portland area, which gives him opportunity to kind of rub elbows with. Portland, Oregon is kind of a mecca for a large chunk of comic book creators. And so that kind of, he introduced me to, so-and-so, and that introduced me to so-and-so. And so I got to have conversations with a whole bunch of people that I read their books and whatnot. And it was nice to have conversations with them that weren't fan base. That's kind of what made that whole, and I feel bad that I didn't text you and say, hey, you should come down. And
I kind of hate you right now.
I know. That's horrible of me. I wasn't really thinking about it at the time until later on when your wife scolded me for not.
I'm just jealous.
For not having it, whatnot. But that was cool. I mean, it was tough at the same time. Cause like I said, if you weren't standing right next to the person, you couldn't have a conversation with them. So, if two people away from you were talking and supposedly you're involved in the conversation, it was a lot of just nodding your head or shaking your head because you couldn't hear what was going on and whatnot. And I thought about stealing one of their pint glasses, because all the pint glasses said Emerald City Comicon on it. It had the logo. It said 2000, and it said 2016. I think, well, they can't do anything with these glasses after this. So I have no idea what they did with all those glasses.
Huh.
And I kind of wondered, well, if I finish my drink and I walk off of this, are they going to, cuff me as I'm passing the lobby or whatnot? I don't know. But
the con police come after you.
Right. I don't know. So I'm curious as to what they do with all those glasses, but it'd be kind of fun to have one of those. But no, it was fun. I was up way too late. For it being a late day 2. Sunday was a bit rough.
Oh yeah.
But my feet were about done by then, because I put a lot of miles in walking around the con floor for sure.
Yes. But, yeah, for sure. Yeah. Let's see. So Friday and Saturday night, when Kitra and I got back to the hotel room, so the Sheraton has a pool, and so the girls love to go to the pool, and I'm not big on that. But Kitra's really nice and takes them to the pool. So both nights we got back from dinner and I crashed on the bed watching TV. I turned the TV on just to have some noise basically. And I just snoozed for an hour as they went to the con. And then after they got back, and it was still pretty early, it wasn't quite going to bedtime, and Kitra would fall asleep on the bed
yeah,
as I was cataloging the comics that I bought that day. So I did that.
And that's what I should have done. Every day when I bought something, I should have put it in my thing, because then I went shopping again on Sunday and I did what you did. I doubled up on some stuff. So
yeah, well, it happened to me quite a bit. Even though I did that every day or every evening, I still ended up somehow buying. Well, I think it's because I went to Randy's twice in one day. And forgot that I bought certain books.
Right.
So I bought them again. No, it wasn't Randy. It wasn't Randy's that I did that twice. I bought them at Randy's, then went to Comics Dungeon.
Oh, I bought them there too.
And
nice.
And had not been able to sit down and catalog those things. So yeah, that's how that happened. So Sunday, shall we move on to Sunday?
Sure.
Okay. So Sunday was a day for me where I was really interested in, so I'm looking at the panels before I go to the con. And there were it seemed to me there were a lot of things that were focused on the creative aspects, the actual production of the comics. How does a writer work with the artist, work with the colorist, that kind of a thing. And so there were a bunch of panels that day that I was able, not a bunch, there were 3. But I wanted to go to these. One was there were a lot of women in, blank panels this year.
Right.
And one of them was a colorist panel. And so there were a bunch of colorists that were there, and they were talking about how they do certain things. Now I went to the panel hoping it would be more of a discussion of, how they color comics when they get the art, and, the back and forth between the penciler and the inker and them. And it turned out to be more technical than that. So it was interesting information, but they were talking about color palettes and
flattening and
Oh yeah, and flatters. That came up a couple times in a couple different panels about the importance of having flatters.
Yeah.
For comics, or working in comics. So in other words, like I said, it was a bit more technical than I was hoping for, but it was still interesting. That day, that's the day that I bought another Nightwing shirt that I actually don't have yet because the vendor ran out of them. But he graciously offered to, if we bought it, that he would ship it to us for free. So nice. now it's on its way. I don't know when it's going to get here, but it was a cute little Nightwing. I'll just have to show it to you. I can't describe it now, but it was cute. But that was another thing. That was the guy I was referring to earlier about, the con not, or at least that vendor not feeling like the con was promoting where they were, and they weren't getting a lot of business.
Sure.
And then let's see. Oh, that's the day that I had I broke down. I purchased a photo op with Nathan Fillion.
Yeah, I saw the picture. Awesome.
It was really cool. Have you ever done I'm sure you haven't. Have you ever done one of those photo ops?
No.
Okay. So for anybody who hasn't, I'll describe the process. You get there way early, even though they said, oh, okay. So here's the thing. The con said specifically, show up no sooner than 15 minutes before your scheduled time. Because I was able to purchase the op before the con started. Chose a particular day. I chose Sunday at 12:30 because I figured that would be a good, not as busy day, like Saturday. I didn't want to do Saturday. And that was one that worked for our schedules. So I chose that. So we get there. And we get there like 20 minutes early. It's not even the 15 minutes, but we get there a little early. Well, apparently a lot of other people thought so too. They thought that they should do this too. It was a ton of people. Fortunately, they had us broken up into 2 different groups. So I was in group 1, there was a group 2. So it was basically, okay, if you're here for group 1, come over here and line up. And it was just this mad rush of people pushing their way to try to get there. Because they do say if you get there late, there's a possibility, even though you bought it, if you get there late, you may not be able, because he's only there for a certain time,
right,
and he's got to go on to something else. So there's a possibility that you won't get your photo op. So anyway, I obviously did, but it's a lot of waiting in line.
Right.
I was actually going to go to, I don't remember what panel it was. There was a panel I was going to go to because I thought, oh, I have a set time. I'm going to have it. You stand in line. They scan your ticket. You walk in. You line up with Nathan Fillion. You're standing next to the guy no more than 5 seconds. Take the picture. You walk off.
Right.
There's
no conversation.
There's no conversation.
Yeah,
he didn't even, I don't think he even looked me in the eyes. But it was still really cool. He walked up, or we walked up. He put his arm around Kitra. He put his other arm around Madison because he directed the 2 girls to stand in front of him. I mean, he talked to them. and I stood next to him, and he said something like, "Okay, now help make me look cool," or something like that.
Right.
Smile, flash, you're done. We start to walk off. I tell him thank you. I turn to say thank you, but the people behind us are already walking up. There's this cute little girl walking towards him, and he just bends down and looks at her and says, "Hi, you stand right here."
Right.
Directing traffic.
Right. And make me look
anyway,
cool.
Yeah. So anyway, you walk off, you collect it because they print them right there.
Oh.
And you collect them. And anyway, so it was really cool. I got to be in the, I went to his panel. I got to stand next to the guy. I was very happy. Anyway, so there's that. Then I went to the DC Art Masterclass. Mm-hmm. This is the one where they have this camera up on the what do you call it? The
podium.
Where the podium. Thank you. And they have the art. They had various artists there. And as they're talking, and you mentioned the image guy who does a good job. Well, DC's counterpart to that is Fletcher, or Fletch, and he's been there I think every year. But he's moderating this panel, and so he's talking to the artists as they're all drawing, and you get to see it up on the big screen.
Cool.
And it was a really cool conversation. They talked about how they broke into comics, who their influences were. How it is to work with, how they work, in other words, as you're seeing this stuff happen on the screen. That was really cool.
Yeah, I thought about going to that one. Yeah.
Oh my God, Travis, you missed out. So they had, let's see, I'm going to name off the names. The people that were there. Steven Segovia was there. Chad Harden was there. Philip Tan, Carlo Pagulayan. And this was the highlight for me, Emanuela Lupacchino. She's from Italy. She's going to be working on, I don't remember which book. For the DC Rebirth?
Yeah, I'm not sure
already.
Yeah.
She is amazing. So she was up there. I mean, they're all amazing, but she was drawing the most beautiful Wonder Woman headshot, and she's doing it with these ink like pen. It looked like ink, but it was a pen. I don't remember what kind of tool she was actually using. But she, someone even asked her too, after Fletch kicked her off and put somebody else on to show. They asked her, did you start this ahead of time? And she said, at first she said no, but she said, oh yes, I did. She actually started sketching like Wonder Woman's face a little bit. But that was it. The rest of it, the hair and the everything else that she was putting in it was all her just basically doodling real time on there. And it was the most, like I said, beautiful picture, one of the most beautiful pictures I've seen of Wonder Woman.
Wow.
So that artist is amazing. So I'm really looking forward to seeing her work on whatever book it is she's working on. Best part of this, though, for these darn kids that were in the audience, Fletch decided to that they would give out this original art that these guys did during that hour.
Sure.
To any kids to some kids in the audience. Lucky bastards.
Doesn't pay to be old.
Right. So and of course the kid who and he got there was one young boy, and the reason he was chosen first was because the entire time that this panel was going on, he was drawing in his own sketch pad. And so Fletch saw that and said, you get to pick any one of these. And wouldn't you know it, he chose the Lupacchino Wonder Woman headshot. But other kids got to come up and select the art. So that was really cool that they did that.
Yeah.
So I meant to go. I meant to go try and see if his parents posted that picture, because I want to retweet that or whatever to show what it looks like, because it was amazing. And then there was finally the you said you went to that Image drama panel. And Image had a bunch of those drama. Right. I don't remember
it was like drama, action. There was those kind of
the components to a comic book, right? Or a story or whatever. Well, this one was collaboration. So fitting with my desire to know more about that stuff. And so they had a bunch of, and I forgot to write down who all was there. But it wasn't, again, like the colorist panel, the women in colors colorist panel. It was, they talked a bit about the collaboration that they have, but not real in depth, I guess. It was, it was the guy, what's his name again? The moderator?
David Brothers.
Yeah. He was really good about getting people to talk about certain things and moving on to different topics and whatnot. But I kept wanting him to let them talk more about the actual collaboration they have. And it was, I think it was all but one person on that panel was artists. I don't remember who the writer was now. Anyway, but it was interesting to hear them talk about that kind of stuff. But I wish they would have done it more, so that because for some reason this year and these last few months, I've been really, really interested in knowing more about the collaborative nature of comic books. And I've been listening to a lot of different podcasts where the writers and artists are talking about that very thing. And I just want to hear more about it. That's pretty much it. Kitra went to the Sean Astin panel.
Oh yeah,
she's a big fan of Sean Astin, and I don't know if you're aware of this. His mother just recently passed away.
Yeah.
And so and she's local to us. I mean, she lived in the Coeur d'Alene, Idaho area, and so I wondered if, when I heard the news,
he was cancel, right?
That's cancel, but he did not.
Yeah.
And from what Kitra tells me, he did talk about that, but he talked about it, apparently that he's forming some sort of fund or memorial type fund type thing in honor of his mother. So that was really cool. And he also talked about his involvement in that Con Man project with Alan Tudyk, which made Kitra interested in watching it. So we did that. I think that's about it. Oh, we were just real quick. I wanted to mention there were two things specifically that Madison was really looking forward to as far as the Comic-Con. Unfortunately, the people involved in those projects canceled and could not attend. One of them was the actress. I'm blanking on her name. She plays Clara on Doctor Who. Do you remember her?
I don't remember the actress's name.
So
Coleman, right? It's Coleman. It's something Coleman. Right?
Jenna Coleman, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So she was supposed to be there. Madison is a huge fan of Doctor Who, mostly Matt Smith and the Ponds, but she really likes Clara too.
I like Clara.
But she was not able to see Clara, and then we got excited because the two actresses, the sisters in Supergirl, were going to be there.
Right.
And we, just before the con, we actually started watching the show. We have them, all the episodes recorded, but we just hadn't sat down and watched any of them except for the first one. Well, we started doing that, and I love that show.
Yeah, it's great, right?
Awesome show, and the girls love it. We sit down as a family and watch this, which means we're not going to be able to get through them quickly, but so we were excited to go to that panel. So I was definitely going to make sure that she was able to sit in on that. I wanted to sit in on it as well. And then I think it was the day before or 2 days before.
2 days before. Yeah.
We found out that
they had other engagements they had to take care of or something. So
canceled. So unfortunately.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much my con. I left and was sad to go. What about you?
So Sunday I was beat. We walked around more. I bought more comics. I bought another, big stack of books. It was kind of a day to look at the little stuff that was around and whatnot that it kind of skipped over for the big name, whatever that I was looking at and whatnot. So it was a lot more slow comb over individual booths. What are, the honest to God independent people doing, that aren't part of, some thing and whatnot. So we did a lot of that. My kids buy tons of non-corporate stuff as far as books and whatnot. So I'm going to be reading a bunch of their stuff, you know. So did some of that. Was largely what the day was, but we left at about 2:00 because, of course, we go home that same day.
All right.
On Sunday. And like I said, it's a 5.5 hour drive to get home because the kids have school the next day, kind of a thing. So yeah, by about 2:00, I didn't have necessarily a plan. We had to be gone by a certain time, but by 2:00, we were all pretty much, my feet have had it. You sat down to have lunch and you really didn't want to get back up again, kind of a thing. So, and like I said, having to drive home. So that's about 2:00, I said, is about when we left. Had an absolutely great time, as far as the general experience goes and whatnot. I'm trying to think of anything particular. I ended up buying another page of art on Sunday. So it was a Doom Patrol page. So I kind of have a desire to get a page of art from every run of Doom Patrol and every artist that participated in those runs of Doom Patrol. I already have a page from the last run of Doom Patrol. This is another page from that, but it was the other artist that worked on it. So, and it was one of those kind of things. It was a total fluke. I'd completely forgotten that Ron Randall had done any work on Doom Patrol. He was kind of the fill-in artist, and he had a booth there. And I happened to be talking to him as I was walking around. He was next to Periscope Studios, which is a big art studio out of Portland. He was next to them, and I had been checking out their stuff. And so I kind of ran into that, and he had a box of art there. And I noticed one of them was tagged Doom Patrol, which of course immediately sparks my attention. So I'm like, what? There's Doom Patrol pages here? So I bought a page from him, which was awesome. You had him sign it for me and stuff. And while I was talking with him, a woman come up that was looking at some of his stuff and whatnot, and she was cosplaying the current Spider-Woman, pregnant Spider-Woman.
Oh.
And she is pregnant, very, very pregnant. And we're like, talk with her is awesome. She's a school teacher, and how she announced to her class that she was pregnant is, I'm going to go to Emerald City Comicon this year, and I think I'm going to cosplay as Spider-Woman, the current Spider-Woman. So her class she must be one of those teachers that has her kids well-versed in comics.
That is
because
awesome.
Right. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, wow, that's some pretty serious dedication to cosplay, to time yourself being about 8 months pregnant to make it to the con, to be, because she's, she was very pregnant. So it was awesome. I really should have gotten a picture with her. I don't normally take pictures of cosplayers at all. It's just, I enjoy cosplay. I think it's awesome the people that do it. I just don't, because I would spend my entire con taking pictures of people, because you just see so many people that are awesomely dressed up that I just know that if I started doing that, I wouldn't get to enjoy the rest of the con, because I'd be too busy going, oh my God, I need a picture of you. Oh my God, I need a picture of you.
Yeah.
But she was perfect. She's this brunette. Like I said, she had the full costume, the big belly. It was pretty awesome. Okay, she was just really cool.
So I when you said that, I'm like imagining this conversation that she's having with her significant other. Okay, so Emerald is in April. In order to do
right, we got to count back. Like I said, she was really fun with it, because she was
really cool.
All game to have the joke about it. Whatnot. Yeah, it was really cool. She was really awesome.
Were there other cosplayers that you saw that you thought were just absolutely fabulous? Because every year I go there, I'm just amazed at the level of work that these people put into their costumes and just makeup. Everything.
There were amazing people dressed up as the Pantheon from Wicked and Divine. I saw lots of them that were just, there was just no doubt in your mind that's who they were. They were just dead on, kind of stuff. I guess there's comic books. There were some Dark Crystal cosplayers there that were just incredible. Somebody cosplayed as I can't remember what the Sketsky's name was, the one that gets stripped of all of his adornments. So he's at that stage where he's wearing the kind of the robe and whatnot.
I saw that.
Incredible. Because the guy he's wearing a helmet, so the whole head is on top of his head. He has like a gauze thing so he can see through that. His partner was with him, and she was dressed as a gelfling. Even had the fizz gig, dog and whatnot. I mean, that was extremely impressive. There were just tons. What I was shocked was I think I only saw one Deadpool the entire con.
Oh, really? I saw a lot.
I mean, well, all years past, I've seen just tons and tons. Maybe I've developed a blind spot to them to where I just there's a void and I don't see them because I'm sick of them. Maybe I don't know, but
I think you're right. I think there seemed to be fewer, which surprised me considering
the movie was just out. Yeah, because usually you see people, cosplaying Deadpool as somebody else. It seems to be a thing to do.
Yes,
you're Deadpool wearing a Pikachu outfit or whatever. And
I saw a lot of that stuff. Yeah.
But I didn't see very much in the whole Deadpool spectrum. I don't know.
Maybe these people who would normally go as Deadpool thought, well, Deadpool, the movie come out, there's going to be a ton of us.
Right. That's played out.
Yeah. So, but apparently not.
But I saw some incredible, antennas as they do every year. Some great black canaries. Trying to think what else. Saw a really impressive Red Hood. Had the helmet and the whole 9 yards that looked really good and whatnot. No, it's like every year. A great John Constantine, which you think, oh, that'd be easy to do, right? Trench coat, spiked hair and packing a cigarette. But this guy really had it down. I mean, the loose tie, he had it pretty nailed down as far
was he a younger person or an older person? Because that's what I want to see. I want to see someone who's actually the age that John Constantine actually is.
Yeah,
cosplaying.
That's one of those characters I've always thought about cosplaying, but at this point, I don't want to sacrifice the beard to do it. So, but no, this was a younger guy. This was a younger guy, kind of a thing. But I mean, he had gone so far as to bleach his hair. So he was the blonde,
wow.
and you could tell that he wasn't naturally a blonde. But so no, like I said, there as always, there's just amazing the level of dedication that some of those people put into. And my big thing is, I always think it'd be cool, but I don't want to. That seems so involved to going to the con and then to be in the costume, for a whole day or however long you choose to be in it. While you're trying to, I mean, I guess that's what you have to be that day. It's more about being that and letting people take your picture or whatever than it is all the other stuff that I want to do.
Right.
The con. And I guess I'm at this point, don't want to sacrifice a day to that. Plus just getting it there. Now that I drive, it's not so much a big deal, but I used to take the train and I just couldn't imagine an entire bag worth of whatever you'd have to, depending on what you're cosplaying, I guess, to take with you. That whole dedication to everything was pretty impressive.
And speaking of that, so there was one guy I saw talk about impressive in terms of just the stuff he was wearing. So you remember in The Tick, there was Arthur.
Yeah.
This guy was dressed up as Arthur.
Oh, nice.
So full white bodysuit,
right.
Big behind him, the big moth wings or whatever they were.
He's a bunny, isn't he? Just kidding.
Was it a bunny? Yeah.
No, he's a moth. He's a moth. It's always called him a bunny because.
But it was impressive because these wings were huge. I mean, they were at least 2 feet above his head. He actually had them connected to his back with a big metal bolt, and I think it was a piece of wood to hold everything together.
Right.
And the reason I noticed him was he was standing there in the crowd. People were trying to get by him.
Sure.
And he was kind of moving around because people were taking his picture. Well, there was one point where this mom and her young son were walking behind him, and I was behind them. And so they were trying to get by him, and he turns at one point, and no, he doesn't. Oh. But that bolt, and it was not that the back of that bolt was not covered. It was not protected. So he came within an inch of hitting that kid in the head, scraping the kid across the forehead with that bolt. And my first thought was, cool Arthur cosplay. And my second thought was, dude, cap that bolt. You're going to hurt somebody.
Yeah, no doubt. Right.
And then, so then later, I think it was Sunday, I was coming back up after one of the panels on that floor, and there were these 2 kids two young boys in really cool looking hawk and dove costumes.
Nice.
And if I were one of those people that like you, I don't take pictures of the cosplayers. I always kind of want to, but it's like, I don't want to bother them, and
but that's why they do it, though.
I know, but I know it feels kind of weird to me to take pictures of people, and like you, there are other things I want to do, so I'm just trying to get to those things, and then on top of that, because I was really tempted, because you know how much I like hawk and dove,
right?
But I thought, how weird, if the roles were reversed, if I were the parents of these kids and somebody came up to me, hey, older bald dude, you really want to take pictures of my two young boys?
Well, they are.
I know.
In costume. You're supposed to ask before you take the pictures.
Exactly.
Which is cool.
That is how it should be.
99.9% of them, if they're there in cosplay, they want that, though. I know. But that is.
I just feel weird about it.
I hear you.
And then finally, I went just on the cosplay. This is really not. I was going to say simple. It really wasn't. So I first saw these people in the line for the Nathan Fillion photo op, they were a couple rows away from me. Do you remember in Sesame Street, the Yip Yip aliens?
Yep. Uh-huh.
Did you see those? Did you see those guys?
Well, I didn't actually see them. No, I saw a picture of them, though. Yeah.
Yes. So they were there, standing there. Greatest cosplay at Emerald City Comicon 2016, as far as I'm concerned.
I would love to see the photo op if they actually were in his line and got pictures with him in costume like that. Him standing with those two things would have been hilarious, I'm sure.
Yeah. I meant to go try and find that too. Yeah. So it was a good time.
Yep.
Good time. So are you, how excited are you to go back for the 15th anniversary of Emerald City Comicon next year?
I always want to. Yeah. Well, I always want to go, but I want to go other places too.
Right.
And realistically, to enjoy them how I want to enjoy them, I don't know that I can hit multiple cons in a year. Not like that. Not where we're talking about multiple nights. Especially if it's my entire family. A family of 4. So I don't know. I mean, yes, I always want to go. If everything was available to buy right now, I'd probably already be pulling the trigger and buying it all. I do know that I will clearly have a plan before it is announced was whether or not I want to go. So on the day that it's announced, the day the stuff goes up for sale, I can start buying it in advance. But I do have some concerns. I mean, because like I said, just some of the kind of offhanded comments that were made. Here's my thing is it sounds to me like the creators who brought products did really, really well. Like Jim Zub literally sold out of everything. He went to the Image booth and got stuff from the Image booth and sold that stuff out too. I heard lots of creators completely sold their stuff out, and not just the big name people. Some stuff that my kids go and buy every year. They buy books, these anthology books from some very small press people, and which I'm drawing a blank on some of their names, and their stuff was sold out. So it sounds to me like creators did really well, whereas I don't know how the exhibitor booths, the companies, the comic book retailers and stuff like that bought stuff, I don't know how well they did. But I mean, I heard lots and lots of creators going by their booths, they sold lots of stuff. So yay for them. But I also heard stuff like the one comic book vendor that was pushed to the 3rd floor, for instance. She's a comic book vendor comic book seller out of Portland. She got pushed up to that floor. She normally in the past, I guess, would normally have 2 booths that she usually purchases to spread all of her stuff out. She was only giving 1, and she was told next year that she may not even have that.
Ooh.
That they want to go in a different direction with the con.
Interesting.
Okay, so you're telling somebody who sells comics that you want to go a different direction with your con. What does that tell me?
Exactly.
I mean, granted, for me, this is really the first year I've really started, and I'm sure it'll get worse as the years go by. The first year I've really gone and bought back issues. Has never been a focus of mine. This is the first year I started to do that, and I expect to do more of that in the future. But yeah, to me, that's an uncomfortable feeling when they tell me that that's a vendor that they may not want there anymore, is somebody who's selling comics. So,
well, especially when this con has long had the reputation of being a very comic book focused con.
Right.
Now,
but right,
you can define that as the the creators involved and the publishers involved, but that if the implication is that they're not going to have as many comic book vendors there, that's
and this is somebody who's been going for forever, is my understanding. I mean, this is and I don't know if that's everybody got that experience. There must have been something happened, because I noticed on Sunday morning I was there, right after the doors opened up, and of course, not all the people who are running their tables are there right away. I went to Rick Remender's table on Sunday because I hadn't gotten anything signed by him yet, and he wasn't there. But laying on his table was a note from Emerald City Comicon, a printed up letter to all of the vendors saying, hey, we understand that you didn't like how this whole process happened. Next year, we've got a new process in place. So there's something went on. Went on that clearly there were lots of complaints about. I don't, us as the public, I don't know that we would have seen that. But like I said, there were these notes, and I read the entire thing. I can't remember exactly what all it said. I thought about taking a picture of it so I'd remember what exactly. But basically, the process, that people didn't like how the process happened, how you went about getting your booth, about how you were awarded a booth, and all of that. There was something was not okay, and that they were going to do something different at the next con, trying to reassure people that. So clearly there must have been something that we as non booth and vendors don't know about, that there was some clearly high level of complaint, because I wouldn't think that they would generate that thing for like one person having a dissatisfied.
And it's good that they're doing it, though.
Yeah,
that they're addressing it as essentially immediately. Whether or not it pans out is another question. But
sure.
But back to the comic. If they are not going to be having as many, or heaven forbid, any comic vendors at all. Speaking as someone who has gone every year to this con, where this is where I buy a lot of my back issues, a lot of to fill in the gaps, and just get things that I have gotten interested in the year between the cons. Wow, that would be unfortunate.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what that really means. I mean, it's going to take another con for us to find out what.
Oh, sure.
What does that really mean? For me, it's half a dozen, one or the other. If they're saying we want less vendors selling comics because we want to have more creators next year, I'm all for that, because that's not as much my thing. But if it's let's have less comic books so we can sell more T-shirts, and some of the booths there have almost nothing to do with comics. I mean, they may be an illustrator medium, maybe, or I don't know. It's art made out of bolts. It's stuff that interests. Do you know what I mean? That interests me less. If it's going to be more of those things, I have a problem. I have a problem if we phase out more comic book oriented panels and put more media guest panels in too, because that's not what I'm about. I mean, I understand the idea of clearly if you get a couple big draw, people are super excited to come to the con. They come to the con, they spend lots of money. That's what helps. Then I'm assuming the con can then turn around and pay to get more creators in. So I understand how one pays for what maybe what I'm interested in gets paid for by a bigger ticket item kind of a thing. So I'm not saying get rid of that, but I don't want it to go the route of what it seems to me like San Diego Comic-Con is now, where it seems to be more about the media outlet and less about the source, the comic books. And I wanted to stay about the comic books, and it has moved more that direction in the years that,
that's true.
In just the 6 years that we've gone. That first year, what it was like versus what it's like now is different. They get a lot more media type stuff and whatnot. And I understand there's a huge draw there. Clearly the lines are massive, for that stuff and whatnot. And part of that's just because the source material has gotten popular to make TV shows out of. And so I understand there's going to be more because, the Walking Deads, and all the CW TV shows and all that stuff, it's all part of the pop culture, and I get it.
Yeah.
There just has to be both or I'm done,
Yeah, exactly. But and to your earlier point about there's only so many cons that we can go to.
Right.
So yeah, I feel the same way. I've been going to Emerald City Comicon for many years now, but there are other cons out there, obviously, that I would love to go to. And so yeah, I can't afford to go to 2 major cons a year, because most of the other ones I'd have to fly to,
right?
Fly, hotel room, car rental, going to the con itself, let alone take my family. So I actually, because my wife is awesome, she encouraged and is allowing me to go to Heroes Con in North Carolina this year,
Nice.
Coming up in June.
Right.
And I kind of consider that a major con, but it's, it's only me going to this one. So that's Emerald City this year and Heroes Con. And I'm trying to figure out a way to go to Rose City Comicon in September.
Yeah. Right.
And then, then there's other ones, I won't go to Heroes Con again, probably, but, I want to go to, C2E2 maybe, or to,
I want to hit Baltimore.
Yeah. What's the one in Calgary? The expo, or I forget.
Right.
Whichever one that is. But yeah, so there are other cons I want to go to. So yeah, next year's going to be tough. I gotta decide what I'm going to do. But then again, on the other hand,
this is our con.
It's our con, and my girls love to go. Kitra actually enjoys it too. Even though she's not into comics. So it's become a family affair, and I hate to take that away just because I want to go to some other con that I've never been to.
We're lucky in that aspect because my family really likes the content. I mean, most everyone in my family reads some bit of comics or whatever, but they always find stuff that they enjoy at it and whatnot, and don't make that difficult. And that's what it kind of is for me too. It's one of the big family trips. It's one of the big family things. And so if I decide not to do that, what does that mean? Kind of thing. So I don't know. I say, I want to go to other ones, but I also know that the reality is that maybe Emerald City Comicon again next year. So,
I mean, we've made some comments during the course of this conversation about our reservations, our extrapolations, if you will, about the con. But I had a very positive experience.
Same here.
I had a great time, and I look forward to going to future Emerald City Comicons.
Yeah, for sure. It's a good show.
Okay, Travis, I've kept you far too long. I just looked at the time.
No.
So, but great talking with you again. Yep. I need to get you on the show more often. I think I know you. I know how busy you are because we game once or twice a week, every week. So I talk to you about various things. So, but I also know how busy you are. You have your own videos that you post about comics and stuff, which I forgot. We need to make sure to remind everybody where that is. So I don't want to feel like I'm intruding on your time, and we're all busy, but I'd love to have you on again very soon to talk about other things related to comic books and whatnot. So I'm looking forward to that. Is there any parting thoughts that you would like to throw out there?
Go to a con. I mean, it doesn't have to be a giant one, but go to a con. If you're a comic book fan and you've never gone to a con, if you can get to one, go to one. They're a lot of fun.
And even better if you can, get together with some like-minded people and go together, because I think that's the most fun. I so look forward to seeing you there and us getting together and talking about things while we're at the con, and interacting with your family and whatnot. So the more the better, I guess is the message.
For sure.
So,
For sure.
all right. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, so let's close out the show. Travis, thank you again for joining me on this discussion about Emerald City Comicon 2016. I'm sure we'll talk next year about it or some other con. So if people would like to leave comments about the con or anything during our discussion about the con, you can always do that. Leave comments below. This will also be posted at my website, longboxreview.com. Travis, remind the fine folks where they can see your stuff about comic books.
I'm pretty much exclusively now on YouTube. You can find me at Oddfellows Thoughts.
YouTube.com/Oddfellows Thoughts, right?
Sure. Yeah.
That's the whole thing?
I think so.
All right. Okay. Oh, and I forgot to mention, boy, it's been a while since I've done this, apparently. You could also email me at longboxreview@gmail.com. And I'm on Twitter at longboxreview. And Travis is on Twitter at Oddfellows Thoughts?
Nope.
No, I always forget that.
Yep. _Gaunt_man is where I'm at there.
How confusing is that? Come on, Travis.
That's because when I started doing this, I didn't think I was going to be a global powerhouse in social media. So
right. So in case people didn't hear that because I was laughing over you, it's _Gaunt_man.
Yes.
On Twitter. And yeah, go follow Travis, go watch his videos, and thanks for watching for those who watch the live hangout or the recording of the live hangout afterwards. Either way, this will, of course, become the audio podcast in the Long Box Review feed as well. So with that, thanks again, Travis, and thanks everybody for watching and listening.